The legendary Hollywood director, this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251, Crew Consultant. Subscription recommendation. Jerry's full name is Jerry Boyard. The short story collection Rope Burns was his first work when he was 30 years old. His writing was not good, and the subject matter was just the stories of ordinary people. For 40 years after the completion of the work, his collection of novels was rejected by major publishing companies because of its lack of market value. He did not give up, and finally saved a lot of money and launched the novel at his own expense in 2000, when he was 70 years old. Unsurprisingly, those publishing companies with a keen eye for the market saw very accurately that this novel could not be sold at all. However, Jerry Boyd did not care. This was his literary dream in his heart, and he realized it. As for whether it was successful or not, that was something that God should consider. At least, he had taken action. It is difficult for people nowadays to understand the word sentiment. Only a changing and legendary era can give birth to such idealists. On the contrary, in a society with stable material and impetuous spirit, talking about sentiment is probably farting or deliberately pretending. Jerry Boyd is a man of deep feelings. As he tells his own creative story, he has been a cut man for more than 10 years, a staff member who treats injuries for boxers. During the break of boxing matches, he runs up to treat the boxers simply so that the boxers can play better. He has experienced countless boxing matches and witnessed too many unknown bitterness and sadness under the ring. People always pursue winners and pay too much attention and cheers to them. Everyone will remember Muhammad Ali, Muhammad Tyson, and Joe Louis, but who will pay attention to the losers? Those boxers who love boxing, but have never enjoyed glory, and even because of long-term training in fierce competition, their bodies are worn out. What should their lives be like? Who knows? So, he really has feelings and wants to share with others those people or things that are not known to others. So, he wrote this collection of novels with this original intention, not describing the winners, but the real stories of losers. Of course, he also knew that such a novel would definitely not make money. He was not stupid, or rather, it was stupid that he was willing to invest most of his accumulated wealth to do such a thing, even though he knew it would not make money. It was also because of this that when a producer came to him and asked for the adaptation rights, he decisively gave it to him. In fact, he really wanted his novel to appear on the big screen, which meant that more people would know about it. And in order to make this thing more feasible, this guy took some buyout fees and did not ask for any box office share or peripheral copyrights, nor did he make any excessive demands, such as participating in the adaptation and filming. Therefore, in another time and space, apart from providing some materials, he had no other participation in the creation of this movie. Warner, as the top film company in the industry, would rather not have the novel author's comments and would certainly not take the initiative to cause any trouble, so it decisively excluded Jerry Boyard. When the movie was released, the industry had a good reputation, and the media gossiped about it. They only remembered the original author. It was even more cruel. Along the way, Lyman was still thinking about how to communicate, but now the atmosphere of the chat is very good. Jerry Boyd is a very talkative person, very humorous, and has a kind of optimist feeling. As he said, he is old, and he is very open-minded about some things. At the bar, Josh wanted to make fun of him, but Jerry Boyd ignored him and turned to Lyman and said, "I saw you on the news some time ago, but I didn't expect you to direct this work. Are you dissatisfied?" Lyman picked up the wine glass and continued to clink it. "No, I was just thinking, it's a bit strange. Your investment in Bad Guys has exceeded 100 million, and you can still concentrate on shooting this kind of subject matter and work." Jerry Boyd asked curiously, "Do you think directors only look at the investment budget? I'm not James Cameron. As long as it's a good story, I'm willing to shoot it." After saying that, he laughed himself. A man like Cameron who spends more and more on each film and likes to spend a lot of money on researching new technologies is indeed rare in the industry. Jerry Boyd nodded. He was very unfamiliar with people like directors. After all, They were not in the same circle, but he had a good impression of Lemon and they could talk. He looked at Lemon and suddenly asked, "Hey, who do you want to play your role? As for the female lead, I'm not sure who is suitable, but I want to ask Mr. Eastwood to play your prototype character. Eastwood, you have a good eye. I like his Dollar Trilogy very much. His temperament is similar to mine. We are both handsome." The old man flattered himself without any shyness. Then, he thought of something and asked with some concern, "But he hasn't acted for a long time. He has been a director. Will he be willing?" "I don't know, but it depends on people. Anyway, ask first." Lemon couldn't be completely sure that Clint Eastwood was willing to act, but in his previous life, he took the initiative to participate. After reading the script, I think he didn't give up his desire to act. It's also true that from an excellent actor to a director, he is more likely to direct and act by himself, but most of the time, the role is suitable. If it is not suitable, he will not force himself to act. Oh. Jerry Boyd continued to clink glasses and drink, obviously approving of Lemon's casting idea. Today's interview was a bit confusing at the beginning, but it went very smoothly. Jerry Boyd is not as old as he looks. He is more like a young man with a fiery heart and full of action. He is also very concerned about his work, so all topics about filming always make him sensitive. "But I still need a little help." Lemon took the initiative to say, "I don't know much about the rules of boxing, and I don't know what the training in the boxing gym will be like. I even want to make some scenes in the script more perfect and detailed. Are you willing to help me?" In his previous life, Jerry Boyd was not invited by Warner to join the crew because they did not need such a person to interfere with the filming. Although Lemon was not sure what advice Jerry Boyd could give on filming, it is undeniable that as the author of the original novel, Jerry Boyd is undoubtedly the most profound in the plot structure of the story. That was what happened in front of him and was part of his life experience. In today's film industry, a large number of novel-adapted films emerge every year, but the authors are usually separated from the specific filming work. This also leads to the situation that after many works are released, the market is very satisfied, but the book fans and novel authors are not very satisfied. The Harry Potter series is a good example. Although everyone brags about the extreme restoration of the story in the novel, it is precisely the hardcore fans of the novel who question and oppose the most. After such a conversation, Lemon realized that Jerry Boyd was not a pedantic person, and he did not think that the film should be filmed completely according to the story he wrote. He even gave advice, saying that in order to make Maggie not so smooth, you can give her a failure at the beginning. The effect of first suppressing and then praising may be better, and it can also win more sympathy from the audience. Yes, this is what he really said. So Lemon can be sure that he can really use Jerry Boyd's help. I not only hope to make the story very touching, I also hope it can become an inspirational movie. Who stipulates that a failed life is a failure? The words are a bit confusing. But Jerry Boyd understood, and this was exactly his original intention for writing. Is the success defined by the public in the eyes of the world the only success? Those who challenge themselves and work hard, even if they fail to reach the top, cannot be simply summarized as losers. Jerry Boyd was very happy and asked Josh to pour them a large glass of draft beer. It was not easy to meet someone who got along well with him, and it was inevitable that his alcoholism would increase. "So, Mr. Boyd," burp. Lemon burped and continued, "Are you willing to complete this work with me?" Chapter 252, Decision, Subscription Recommendation. Are you willing? Of course he is. This work has extraordinary significance for him. Jerry Boyd looked at the slightly younger director in front of him. If what the news said was true, then this man is only 27 years old this year. Although it is said that he has launched many excellent works, he really broke out after Bad Guys. It seems that from then on, the name of this director began to become popular. However, those rumors are all illusions for Jerry Boyd, and they are just reading materials to kill time in his spare time. Until today, or this afternoon, Jerry Boyd really came into contact with him. Different from the media and newspapers, it is a living reality. A young director with an interesting personality, quite talkative, and his own ideas. However, thinking about his age and achievements, Jerry Boyd doubted whether his first half of his life was lived in vain. Thinking of this, it is inevitable to laugh. Jerry Boyd shook his head, shook off these random thoughts, and concentrated on drinking again. With a crisp clash, Jerry Boyd picked up his beer glass, raised his head, and began to pour the remaining beer into his throat. For a moment, he was full of heroic spirit. He wiped the wine that had fallen from the corner of his mouth and looked at Lemon with a red face. "I do." He said it so crisply and clearly. Fortunately, there was no one else in the bar, otherwise people who didn't know would think that the two were secretly getting married. "So, tell me, what do you want me to do?" Jerry Boyd's personality is very generous. This may be because he has been in the boxing circle for many years, so he does things without any hesitation. Since he decided to join the filming, he immediately entered the relevant role. To be honest, my knowledge of movies is very limited. Personally, I may not be able to help too much. Lemon smiled and said, "You come to be the shooting consultant of our crew. When we shoot the boxing scenes, please point out any mistakes. The other thing is the script, which is where I need your help. Some of the scene designs are a bit vague, and there are also dialogues between characters and content during training. You should try your best to fill them in." Paul Haggis is a good screenwriter, but he has never been in the boxing circle, so the focus of the adaptation is also different. He puts more attention on Maggie's personal family situation and conflicts, and weakens the boxing part. So in fact, some of the plots seem a bit dragged out, which is not conducive to the rhythm control of the film. Lemon is different. He wants to deepen the part of Maggie's hard work for boxing, and weaken the background line of the characters. The main line always revolves around the four themes of inspiration: chicken blood, choice, respect and death. As soon as Lemon finished speaking, Jerry Boyd showed a thoughtful expression. As the original author of the novel, he naturally knew all about what had happened. Don't drink and drive. Don't drive after drinking. This is common sense. Lemon drank, so he didn't drive. After a pleasant chat with Jerry Boyd, it was 5 p.m. Lemon called Johnson to send someone to pick him up. The next morning, he went straight to the headquarters building of Warner Pictures. Warner's head office is also located in Burbank. In fact, among the so-called Big Six Hollywood, in terms of geographical significance, only Paramount's headquarters is located in Hollywood. Because it had been reported long ago, no one stopped Lemon, and he went up to the 8th floor smoothly. There were many people coming and going on the floor, mostly Warner's internal staff and some producers. As Lemon walked along, someone greeted him, and he nodded in greeting. After arriving at the president's office, Barry Mears' assistant had been waiting there, and welcomed him in. The two walked in a corridor, one in front of the other, and arrived at Barry Mears' location. On the left side of the office, near the French window, he was sitting there processing documents. Director Lemon. "Mr. President." The two shook hands intimately, with Lemon smiling warmly. "How are the preparations for setting up the crew going?" "Not bad. Your company's filming funds should be credited," Lemon reminded. "Well, I'll notify the finance department later and transfer the funds. Because the two parties are co-developing this project, and they will complete it as agreed at the beginning. Therefore, the total filming budget is about $40 million. Lemon accounts for 30%, basic salary converted into investment share, and has to pay $12 million, while Warner will bear the rest of the filming funds. The financial transactions between the two are all used in a newly opened bank account, which is also convenient for Warner to check the whereabouts of the funds. After talking about the filming funds, Lemon started talking about another thing. "Does Mr. Barry Mears know Clint Eastwood? Why are you looking for him?" Barry Mears certainly knows Eastwood. In fact, Warner has cooperated with this director frequently. Although operating his works does not make much profit, it will not easily lose money. After so many years of cooperation, there is a lot of tacit understanding. That's why Barry Mears was a little surprised. Why did Lemon ask him? "I want to ask Mr. President to do me a favor. Clint Eastwood has also joined the agency, but not CAA, but ICM. Some time ago, he directed a feature film Mystic River, which is still being shown in theaters. As for the box office, the market performance of art films has always been not very good. Although the reputation is good, compared with the expenditure, it can only make a little money. The big part depends on whether the offline DVD and videotape market is strong. However, People don't worry about this. He is 73 years old, and his wish is to die on the set. He said this when he won the Oscar for Best Director. In 2019, he was 89 years old and still made a movie called The Mule, which he also directed and acted in. He is a filmmaker who truly loves his career. After finishing the filming, he rested at home as usual and thought about what to shoot next. Unexpectedly, Warner executive Barry Meer called him, and it was his private phone number. "Mr. Barry Meer, is there anything?" After a few polite words, he asked bluntly. "It's okay, this busy man will definitely not call him. Your movie Mystic River is now in theaters. If you need any help, just ask. Nothing is needed. It's already in theaters. People who like to watch it will naturally go to watch it." After getting bored, Barry Meer still said, "Then are you free recently? There is a movie that wants you to act in. It feels like playing a single player game. Is there anyone watching it? Come out and take a breath. Hey." Chapter 253, Move at the Sound. Subscription recommendation required. Maybe the script was good enough, or maybe Barry Meer had enough face. In short, after meeting with Clint Eastwood several times, Lemon's agent quickly reached an agreement with the crew, and the performance salary was symbolically $3 million. The peak of an actor's career is generally between 30 and 45 years old, but he is a director and his worth is difficult to estimate. This number was given by his agent after consulting his opinion. It can be said that Lemon owed some favors. After the performance contract was signed, if nothing unexpected happened, this experienced iron-blooded cowboy would most likely play Frankie. The image of this role was almost tailor-made for him, and it was also the first actor that Lemon thought of after seeing the script. Generally speaking, Hollywood is the base camp of the left, but this guy's different. He is a hardcore rightist. For the left, refer to Hillary's campaign and governing philosophy. From his political stance, it can be seen that, just like his most classic screen image, he pursues the logic of strong men and hates hypocrisy. At the same time, after asking Lemon for his opinion, Warner quickly arranged for the media to release the news about the preparation plan for the new film. Lemon's next work, inspirational drama film $1 Million Baby. This is a headline of the entertainment section of the Los Angeles Times. For a film company of Warner's size, it is still very easy to hype the popularity of a movie. After the newspaper was launched on the market, some news appeared in major forums one after another, and then was reprinted everywhere, and it also caused widespread discussion on the internet. After all, after laying the foundation for several works, this year there is another movie like Bad Guys that has caused a viewing craze. Lemon's popularity is very high among directors, and he has many fans. Anyway, people who follow him have learned about the relevant information from almost all channels, and know that Lemon plans to shoot a new work. As for the co-production party, Lemon's newly established Firefly Pictures, no one cares. Although the media know about it, they don't pay much attention to it. It's really nothing to be surprised about a director and an actor opening a film company like this. Los Angeles has never lacked film companies, and the media is more concerned about movies. His fifth film, an inspirational drama? Director Lemon. There is news circulating recently that the male lead of the movie will be played by Clint Eastwood. Is this true? Lemon had just walked out of the Warner headquarters building when he was surrounded by a large group of reporters asking about various news related to $1 Million Baby. What is your idea for making a film? Why did you choose such a theme movie? Can I ask, who are the other actors in the movie? Tom Cruise? Nicolas Cage? Heath Ledger? The reporter named all the actors who had often worked with Lemon in the past. At this moment, he was surrounded by more than a dozen reporters, and the microphone was about to poke his face. Although Lemon knew that this was Warner's publicity method to hype up the project before filming, he was of course willing to cooperate. As for how to cooperate, Lemon directly showed it with his actions. You can ask whatever you want, alas, I just won't say. Rumors are flying everywhere, but there is no complete evidence. Will that cause more discussion? If everyone knows everything, what's the point? Lemon agreed with the publicity strategy formulated by Warner and strictly followed it. The chaotic scene attracted the attention of the security guards at the door. Soon several people came to maintain order, but the reporters always surrounded Lyman and seemed determined not to let him leave without a clear answer. Unfortunately, Johnson drove up. Seeing that he wanted to leave, the reporters and paparazzi could no longer maintain their posture and rushed up again. Some even grabbed Lyman's clothes to prevent him from running. In the chaotic situation, the security personnel were extremely powerful and protected Lyman from being surrounded by reporters and getting into the car parked outside the road. Johnson, who was sitting in the driver's seat, looked at Lyman's embarrassed look and said while quickly starting the car, "It looks like the publicity effect is not bad. It's okay if this happens once in a while." Lyman tidied up his messy clothes and said, "I can't stand it if it happens a few more times. The media needs topics, and we need attention. It's just a coincidence. Don't worry, it will only be a little crazy in the next 2 weeks. Moreover, when it comes to hype and publicity, Warner is more than one level better than Paramount." Johnson said with a little emotion. "Nonsense. Warner has operated countless classic publicity and promotion cases in the future. In terms of publicity, only Disney can barely compare. Hollywood, Paramount Pictures headquarters building. Andrew David, the head of the marketing department, hurriedly passed by the aisle, greeted the president's secretary assistant, knocked on the door, and sat opposite Shirley Lansing. "We have received accurate information," he said without any nonsense, directly talking about the topic of discussion that suddenly appeared in the newspapers in the past 2 days. "Warner really cooperated with Lyman on this movie." Shirley Lansing frowned. "So fast?" "Yes, I'm afraid they had planned it long ago, so they were able to complete the project so quickly. Less than a week after the banquet, they hooked up with each other. If they said they had never met privately before, I'm afraid no one would believe it." "What is he thinking?" Shirley Lansing asked, puzzled. "Maybe only he knows." Andrew David was also quite helpless. In the past 2 years, Lyman's last project has been Paramount's cash cow, but now this cash cow has the intention of jumping to Warner next door. It involves real interests. How can he be relaxed? You know, Paramount has been kind to him and has never defaulted on profit sharing, but this silent cooperation with others makes Andrew David look bad. Of course, it can't be said to be a betrayal. The two have always been partners. It's just unhappy. Shirley Lansing was also unhappy, but from this incident, she could see that Lyman was not as docile as before, but Paramount was always Paramount, and that would not change. After thinking about it, she immediately said, "Report to the board of directors. The acquisition of DreamWorks may speed up the process. We can't delay it any longer." "Okay, I got it." Perhaps Lyman didn't expect that his action of planning for the future would actually advance Paramount's pace of acquiring DreamWorks. Shirley Lansing knew deeply that Paramount's production capabilities were gradually failing to keep up with the standards, and she was determined to introduce DreamWorks to complete the transformation. Chapter 254 Harvey's Lifeline. Subscription Recommendation. Harvey Weinstein threw a newspaper on the table and snorted. "Inspirational drama movie? What is this guy doing again?" In the huge office, Bob Weinstein, who had just delivered the newspaper, was sitting on the sofa. Hearing Harvey's anger, he didn't say anything, because he was also thinking about Lyman's new film. Unlike other film companies that wanted to cooperate or saw the dawn of winning over, Miramax had no such thoughts from beginning to end. Maybe Harvey had, but he gave up after being rejected again and again. But to be honest, although Miramax saw him rise all the way and gain both fame and fortune, it never regarded Lyman as an opponent, because the two of them were not at the same level at all. Even though Lyman's Bad Guys was so successful, one movie was equivalent to Miramax's operating income for a year. Bob Weinstein also knew Harvey's intentions very well, but when Lyman founded a company called Firefly Films, the box office of Saw surpassed that of Kill Bill. But to be honest, it was not a big deal to be a little depressed. After all, Miramax's main business is still distribution, and the production is supported by big names like Quentin Tarantino. In terms of distribution, although they are not as good as the Big Six in Hollywood, they are not comparable to Lyman's film company. Miramax is at least an international distributor. Although it uses Disney's channels, it is also very powerful. Okay, Every year, they can make a lot of money just by operating the film projects of other small companies, and they don't have to bear any risk pressure. The Oscars season is their annual harvest time. As long as they successfully win the Little Golden Man, the offline market will definitely be hot, and they can make tens of millions of dollars just by selling discs. But now Lemon suddenly turned to cooperate with Warner, and the news released specifically stated that the new film was an inspirational movie, which made the Weinstein brothers alert. The Oscars season is not far away. If Lemon's new work is successful again, and the subject matter is good, it will inevitably have a huge impact on Miramax's operations. This impact is far more than beating Kill Bill at the box office. As early as 1998, Shakespeare in Love took away the Oscar from Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan at the last minute, declaring that public relations means are the only standard for the Oscars. Over the years, Miramax has helped countless financiers and film companies get the awards they want. It can be said that Harvey's success in the industry is inseparable from his ability and the connections he has made. He himself knows this. In addition to getting close to the judges on weekdays, he is also willing to lend a hand to some people who ask him for help. For example, this year's Lord of the Rings third part, New Line Cinema reached a consensus with him to operate the Oscars season together. He is naturally not particularly concerned about the success of other people's projects, but what about the next one? He has been preparing for this for a long time. Will there be any variables? Such a fierce force inevitably makes people think too much. Bob Weinstein advised, it's useless to think about it. With our strength, if we really fight, it will just be a matter of seeing who has better means. Bob is still very confident about this. They are Jewish, and have been in the circle for so many years. No matter how you look at it, they are the ones who have the upper hand. Maybe they can't compete in box office, but if they want to compare who has better relationships, then you have to ask the judges if they agree. However, Harvey still had some concerns. After all, it was Warner, which was stronger than Paramount. He also suggested, Bob, do you think it is possible to add some trouble to their project? Bob was surprised and said, why do you want to do this? Warner clearly wants to support him. If you do something wrong and get caught, have you thought about the consequences? But this person is always an unstable factor, and always makes trouble for us. If we can destroy their cooperation projects, it is also a good plan. Do you think Paramount will be willing to take action? Bob Weinstein watched Harvey step by step to where he is now. How could he not know Harvey's character and methods of doing things? Once this guy thinks that someone is a competitor who will stand in his way, what kind of dirty things will he not dare to do? Last year, Chicago was able to defeat a group of competitors and win the best film. He did not hesitate to spread negative information, and finally forced the jury to give up voting for the pianist due to public pressure. And Harvey now wants to ruin the cooperation between Lemon and Warner. The idea is also very simple. It is not only to eliminate a threat, but also to have the idea of personal revenge. Harvey has been against him time and again. He continued, Lyman seems to be ambitious. This happened so suddenly. What does Paramount think? Warner is Paramount's most natural competitor. Doesn't Paramount want to take some action? Many people can do the distribution. Is Warner really willing to support him? I don't think so. After a thorough analysis, Bob Weinstein could only sigh and say, okay, I'll contact the people at Paramount and see if it works. He knew that once Harvey had an idea, he would not listen to advice easily. Let him do it. In Beverly Hills, in Lyman's mansion. Since he reached an agreement with Warner, he has not appeared in front of the media. He began to concentrate on preparing for the filming of $1 Million Baby. Most of his production team members in France, with the tacit approval of Europa Films, also signed filming agreements with the crew. Then came Ryan and Thomas. The former had some trivial matters to deal with, while the latter had already rushed over and was sleeping in the guest room on the second floor to adjust to the time difference. In addition, under Johnson's management, the company rented the second floor of the business building to expand the company's facade. In addition to the original confirmed employees, several other staff members were recruited. They were all talents with market experience in the circle. They were poached from several other film companies to form a market research department. Later, influenced by Jerry Boyd, Lyman asked Johnson to poach several screenwriters from CAA and set up an editorial department to specifically review whether some submitted scripts were worth adapting and filming. In addition, in terms of finance, James Wan's sequel project has also begun, with a production cost of $15 million plus the $12 million budget expenditure from Lyman. It has not yet made a profit, but it has already paid out $27 million. In addition to the company's daily operations, the financial expenditure for the whole of November is estimated to be $30 million. However, this is just a startup, so take it slow. Chapter 255, Female Lead Selection, Subscription Recommendation. After the cruise preparations were on track, with Thomas watching, Lyman was also relieved. In this way, he could put all his energy into finding actors. But for a while, he didn't know who would be suitable. Especially the selection of Maggie, the absolute heroine, needs to be carefully considered. Eva read the script. As an actor, she wanted to challenge herself, but was rejected by Lyman. Not to mention that she had recently taken on several commercial performances and MV advertisements under Johnson's operation, and the schedule would be very tight. Moreover, he wanted the actor to fully substitute the role, to gain muscle, and become a female boxer who could fight lightweight matches. To this end, he also invited several professional boxing coaches to form a training group to specialize in this direction. Although the cost of $1 Million Baby is not too high, the requirements for actors are still quite high. Even if Eva can endure hardships, her acting foundation is still a little tender. She is far from the female enchantress in later generations who can easily control various roles. The most important thing is that the appearance is not suitable. If she is too beautiful, it will feel inconsistent to the audience. The next morning, Lyman was thinking about the storyboard of the script in his office, and Johnson came over with a file. Here are some of the actor information I have selected. Well, put it here first. He picked up the information and started reading it. After finishing this part of the storyboard, it was naturally some suitable actor selected by Johnson for the heroine Maggie. As an agent of CAA, as long as he was given some casting criteria, he could come up with several good plans to select people. Of course, these girls are not famous, and most of them are the kind that are more recognized by people in the industry. Actresses who are willing to gain muscle, workout, boxing training, and whose salary cannot be too high do not have many big stars willing to come to audition. Well, she looks too sweet. No. This one is good, and her temperament is good. Lyman flipped through the information of these actresses page by page. Some were eliminated directly, and some entered the second round of auditions. Okay, these few. Find a time to notify them to come and try. After Lyman circled, he said to Johnson, watching him nod and leave with the file. Lyman immersed himself in the world of movie scripts again. At 8 o'clock in the evening, in a community apartment building in Los Angeles, Hilary Swank finished a day of hard work and dragged her tired body back home. Only her mother was at home, sitting on the sofa watching TV, and there were pizzas, vegetable salads and other foods on the table. "You're back." Her mother stood up, helped her take off her coat, and hugged her. "You can eat first, you don't have to wait for me." Whenever she said this, her mother just smiled, but she didn't change. I think this scene has been repeated countless times. Since she was 15 years old, her parents divorced, and she followed her mother. The mother and daughter have been relying on each other for warmth. How was it today? Did it go well? At the dinner table, her mother asked with some concern. "No, I auditioned for the roles that York mentioned, but I was eliminated in the first round." Hilary Swank lowered her head and said a little depressed. Her mother smiled helplessly. "It doesn't matter, there will always be a chance." Yeah. After dinner, taking a shower, Hilary lay on the bed in pajamas, inexplicably sentimental. She thought she would have a good life as an actress, just like what was said in the movies and newspapers. But in fact, there is a bottom layer in any industry, a dark bottom layer. Unfortunately, she was one of them. She had never been glorious. She dropped out of high school at the age of 16 and followed her mother to Los Angeles to seek a career in the entertainment industry. At that time, they lived in a car. The expensive rent was like a fence, firmly separating them. Later, her mother found a job and she also starred in some TV series. Life gradually got better. At least, she rented a house and didn't have to wander around anymore. In 1999, it was her luckiest day. She was nominated for the Best Actress Oscar for Boys Don't Cry and finally won it. But this award did not bring her anything. Her salary was still a pitiful tens of thousands of dollars. Sometimes she only got a play in 1 or 2 years. It is conceivable how poor her living conditions were, not to mention that she was in Los Angeles where rich people gathered, and the living standard was already high. Although she won people's respect, the cost of a severe cold was enough to empty her savings. Sometimes, she also wondered if she should quit. All these years of acting career taught her a lot, but there was a cruel fact in front of her. If an actress wants to make a name for herself in Hollywood, a stunning appearance seems to be more important than acting skills. Her mother is also old and has to go out to work every day. The more she thought about it, the worse her mood became. Hilary Swank decided to talk to her mother. Let's go back to our hometown. We have saved some money over the years. We can go back and do some small business. Why do you think so? Her mother was puzzled. Didn't you say that many directors praised you for your talent? You have also won awards. If you don't continue to be an actor, why do you want to go back to your hometown and choose to give up? I'm 30 years old this year, Mom. After saying this, Hilary Swank could no longer bear the pressure that life has always brought her, and she broke down and cried. What's the use of such a life? She didn't even dare to get sick or talk about love. She was already 30. Her mother hugged her and was silent. After a long time, it seemed that she had vented enough emotions, and Hilary Swank became strong again. Just as she was about to go back to her room to rest, her cell phone suddenly rang. Hello, Hilary, are you there? It was her agent York calling. What's up? Of course I have something to say. It's the great news. We have a chance. York was so happy that he didn't know how to express himself. He kept repeating words like grasp the opportunity. What opportunity? Hilary Swank continued to ask. It's the new movie directed by Lyman last. His agent just called me to let me know that you will go to Firefly Pictures for an audition at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Is it really him? Hilary Swank was a little unbelievable. It's absolutely true. York emphasized, it's the audition for the leading actress in $1 Million Baby. You know, the leading actress, and she's acting opposite a director like Clint Eastwood. That's Eastwood. You know what I'm talking about, right? I know. Hilary Swank felt her heart start to beat wildly. A movie directed by two big directors. What does this mean? Without her agent's repeated emphasis, she knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for her. Chapter 256 Strict Requirements. Subscription Recommendation. There are 3 candidates for the heroine Maggie. In addition to Hilary Swank, there are Sandra Bullock and Ashley Judd. The former is a contracted artist of a small agency. If Johnson's connections were not wide enough, it would be difficult to even find the name of the company. The latter two are both contracted artists of CAA. Of course, CAA is the most resourceful agency in the Hollywood industry, with many actors under its banner. These two are just so-so, barely hanging around, and were abandoned early without even being worthy of being promoted. After entering the industry for so long, they have not become popular, but compared to those pure newcomers who have not yet realized their dreams of becoming actors, they are much better. This person needs to be compared. If you don't compare, how can you know that you are actually good? For the dream of becoming a star, there are so many people who have fought hard, and how many of them have made it? Now they finally get the opportunity. It is said that director Lyman's new film is selecting a heroine. This good thing has inexplicably fallen on these 3 people. In addition to being happy, they are also doing their best to treat it. It was just past noon, not even 1 o'clock, not to mention that the audition time was scheduled for 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but everyone was already there. The 3 actresses looked at each other and sat in the lounge, staring at each other. They all knew in their hearts that there was only one chance, so the rest were all competitors. Unfortunately, it was not that simple. This was the first time that Rodrian Pictures had been so lively since it was renamed Firefly Pictures. Early in the morning, Johnson first came to the company with several boxing coaches and nutritionists, and then several actresses who wanted to audition also came, each with their agents. It was not until 3 o'clock in the afternoon that Lemon stepped into the company on time. Last night, he stayed up late to conceive the storyboard, so he got up very late. How is it? Is everyone here? Lemon asked. They are all in the lounge, Johnson replied. Lemon nodded and took Thomas and Johnson to where the actors were. His eyes swept over the three of them. Apart from anything else, their images were quite suitable. The facial lines were all very tough. The actors Johnson had selected were all good. Hello, everyone. I'm Lemon. He spoke first. Hello, director. The three actresses stood up one after another and responded politely. Well, you guys get ready, and we'll have a separate audition later. After that, he went out and sat in the cubicle again. A few minutes later, the first person to come in was Hilary Swank. Lemon didn't rush her to perform, but asked a few questions. Have you ever been involved in boxing? No. The girl shook her head subconsciously. How much do you weigh now? 57 kilograms. Are you willing to gain muscle? Yes. Gain 10 kilograms? Yes, I can accept it. Lightweight should only weigh 61.29 kilograms, but Lemon wanted the boxer to look like a welterweight, which would be more intuitive and the effect of punching would be better. Then you go out first. Hilary Swank pushed open the door of the audition cubicle with confusion. The other two who were waiting for the audition saw her come out so quickly, and their faces were not good. They thought there was one less competitor, and they almost laughed out loud. Next, the Firefly staff spoke. Sandra Bullock took a few deep breaths, adjusted her state, opened the door of the lounge, and strode to the side. In the temporary audition room, Lemon, Johnson, and Thomas were discussing the candidates just now. There was also a representative of the Actors Guild listening next to them, who did not dare to interrupt at all. He just came here to serve as a witness, and his right to speak was almost zero. Unless someone was treated unfairly, he would be qualified to manage those actors who paid their dues. The image is good, but a little thin, Lemon said first. According to the union's information, she has won an Oscar for Best Actress. Thomas flipped through the documents and continued, and she is willing to gain muscle. There is still some time before the shooting, so you can give it a try. Johnson, what do you think? Lemon asked. She has the basic acting skills, but she has never been involved in boxing, and she has no experience in acting in related roles. Let's wait and see. As a CAA person, he certainly wanted to choose a CAA actor, but he didn't interfere with the decision making in this regard. He was a smart man, and Lemon was very opinionated. What he said was the same as if he hadn't said anything, which was very pleasing. Next, it was Sandra Bullock's turn. Lemon also asked similar questions, but this person has a very good figure, and that thing is a little prominent. It always feels like she doesn't look like a boxer. You can't say that those who have been trained for a long time seem to want to break free from that place. Besides, boxing with a bull always feels too fucking inconsistent. Her weight barely meets the standard of lightweight, and she just needs to gain some muscle, but it is much worse than the previous one. However, Lemon is willing to give her another chance. Similarly, Ashley Judd is similar. The figure and image are not bad. Lemon called the three girls together again and made a direct request. I believe you have all guessed that the heroine of this movie is a boxer. You will have 2 weeks to train. I have hired a boxing coach and a nutritionist. They will be responsible for coaching you for a period of time to increase your weight and muscles. Then we will determine the candidates. Just like that, the three of them left Firefly Pictures in a daze again, without even touching the script, let alone knowing what the story was about. However, the only thing they knew clearly was that there was still competition among them, which was a criterion for casting. Lemon really attached great importance to this movie, not because of how much money the movie could make, but because he simply liked this type of subject matter. After returning home in the evening, he began to conceive the storyboard script of $1 Million Baby. The viewing design this time was different from the previous ones. Because it was a period drama, Lemon planned to go back to the old days, and the lens effect should highlight a dark yellow. Then when Maggie injured her spine later, the light and shadow became more depressing, but the color had to be brighter to form a certain contrast. In addition to these thoughts, Lemon had many other thoughts. He also asked Jerry Boyd to add a failure scene, which was not as smooth as the original work, and then ended abruptly. It seemed more layered and made the topic of what's the point of hard work more serious. It was like giving hope, being frustrated, catching up, falling into the abyss, picking oneself up again, and making a firm choice. It was late at night. After drawing the last set of scene shots, Lemon stretched and prepared to go to bed. Good night. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Training. Subscription recommendation. It is impossible to turn a person with no boxing experience into a good boxer quickly, but if he can look similar and pose without any mistakes, he can almost achieve the effect that Lemon wants. The next day, the three actresses came to a private club in Los Angeles. The second floor above had been renovated into a boxing gym, and the simple training facilities were also well prepared. Several coaches had talked to Lemon on the phone yesterday, so they would not be late. They got up early and warmed up. So when Hilary Swank came in, she saw such a lively training scene. Not long after, Lemon also came. He called everyone together and said, all three of them need to undergo strength training and body shaping, and they should also be responsible for teaching them basic offensive footwork and evasion training. Time may not be enough, only 2 weeks. We don't need to be very proficient, as long as they can look decent. Then, Lemon asked one of the men, Mr. Hikato, can you do it? The man called Hikato was the only male here, but he was not simple. He was just selected as the world's best coach by the sports section of the New York Times, and he was particularly good at training boxers. This time, Warner found him, after knowing his needs. No problem, if you want to train a boxer properly, it will take at least 2 years, but now as long as you overcome the physical disadvantages, 2 weeks will not make much difference. The rest of the coaching team were all serious female boxers. They were responsible for practicing actual combat and helping the actors find that feeling. After a discussion, head coach Hikato began to give instructions and urge them. Lemon had something else to do, so he left first. The first day of training was really hard for the three girls. They had no boxing background and their physical fitness was far behind. Facing the intensive strength training course, mainly training the knee joints and coordinating the strength of multiple joints, the simple bench press and pull-up was a life-threatening thing. After 10 sets, it felt like my waist, abdomen and calves were not my own. For Sandra Bullock, whose physical fitness was even worse, the coach helped her pull the bench bar and she cried out in pain. Fortunately, there was a break every half an hour of training. But such a devilish day was really not something that ordinary girls could bear. On the second day, Sandra Bullock stopped coming and chose to give up. Hilary Swank was different. She was stubborn and unyielding. She had survived so many years of hard times. What was this? When she first started acting, in order to successfully participate in Men Don't Cry, this girl cut her hair short. In order to fit the role better, she also tied her chest with a tight bandage and treated herself completely as a boy. She maintained this kind of life for half a year, including when she was filming on The Crew. She never relaxed, and she really lived according to the real life of Brandon Dina in the movie. Even during a certain filming, she needed to jump down from the 3rd floor under pressure. She didn't mention that she was ill and a little afraid of heights, but she jumped down directly. When she landed, she was too scared and couldn't control her body well, so she fell directly to the ground and sprained her ankle. That's it, not to mention that she reshot twice before discussing with the director to go to the hospital. The special training is also like this now. After Hilary Swank finishes training in the club during the day, she goes home in the evening and has to train again by herself. Due to excessive training, the soles of her feet directly cause blisters to become infected, so she had to stop her madness. When Coach Hikato told Lemon about this, he was also surprised. To be honest, when Lemon saw Hilary Swank for the first time, he recognized her as the heroine of the original $1 Million Baby. He had seen the original film several times, so of course he would not make a mistake, not to mention that the face shape was almost the same. But he didn't decide on the candidate right away, because Lemon knew that movies were never restricted to a certain actor. He understood this most deeply when filming bad guys. Even Tom Cruise, a well-known star actor in the industry, can become a different kind of acting charm from being cool when he is in good shape, with the foil of his opponents and a good role. Moreover, in the previous life, it was director Clint Eastwood who took over this film. After many twists and turns, the selection of roles had a huge deviation, and in the end, it was a fixed image of the movie role in Eastwood's mind. Lyman naturally wouldn't easily decide on a candidate unless it was really suitable, but Hilary Swank at that time was no different from an ordinary Hollywood actress, paying too much attention to her figure and the photogenic effect, which led to her being skinny. How can a tall person look like she has no flesh? But now, listening to Coach Hikato's daily training report, he really looks at this girl with a new eye. That was really hard on himself. He had only seen such a character in Heath Ledger, who was stubborn. As for Axel Judd, although he also gritted his teeth and insisted on training, the effect was not as good as Hilary Swank. In the following days, Million Dollar Baby continued to be prepared in an orderly manner. While the two actors were still in special training, Lyman was not idle. He took Thomas and others to several boxing gyms around Los Angeles to check the location. He found that none of them were suitable, so he simply found a warehouse and restored the boxing gym scene. During this period, he discussed with Thomas several times about the screen texture that the lens images wanted to present, and modified some subtle differences in the split shots. As time entered December, just as the box office performance of The Matrix Revolutions released by Warner was gradually declining, and it was not too dominant in the market, the final chapter of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, took over strongly. On the afternoon of the 16th, the day of the movie's premiere, Peter Jackson called to ask Lyman if he had time to participate. The two had known each other since last year's Oscars and were still in contact. Since he was not too busy recently, he readily agreed to show his support. Speaking of which, when he was filming Lord of the Rings 2, he had already filmed many scenes from the third part. Many scenes were concentrated together, and he finished filming them all at once, so he could make another one so quickly. You know, this guy has never been fast at filming movies, and he can't compare with a quick shooter like Lyman. At about 7 o'clock in the evening, a red carpet was prepared in front of the Royal Theatre, and reporters on both sides were ready, just waiting for the opening of this film event. Chapter 258 The Return of the King. Subscription recommendation. Wow, so beautiful. Looking at Eva Green sitting in the business car, Lyman praised sincerely. The girl wore a lavender off-shoulder dress with long flowing hair, giving people a very stunning and feminine feeling. It seems that the costume stylists that Johnson found for her are quite useful. It really sets off the girl's temperament. Do you think it looks good too? Eva smiled and seemed very satisfied with Lyman's performance. Oh my god, so showy? At the scene of the Law Theatre, Lyman looked at the red carpet that almost broke through the sidewalk and the lively audience of movie fans and was very surprised. Is this the third part? The momentum created by the first two parts is big enough. It's impossible for the last part to be even shabby than before, not to mention that New Line Cinema is preparing to compete for the Oscar with this film. How can it be without momentum? Johnson also sighed. By the way, Harvey Weinstein was also one of the producers of this film, but because he lost the copyright lawsuit to New Line, the two had a falling out for a while. Later, New Line privately promised Harvey a portion of the profits, and only then did it win the help of this public relations master. Okay, it's time for us to get out of the car. Seeing that the main creators were on stage for the finale, it was their turn. Lyman opened the car door and got out first, then took Eva's arm and welcomed her down. All the way to the interview area, Lyman did not let go of Eva's hand. The signal of his behavior was already very clear. It was like showing intimacy in public, and Johnson, who was walking behind them, took the initiative to keep a little distance, making him look more like a single dog that no one cared about. With Tolman's current fame, many reporters also noticed Eva. For a while, the flashlights kept flashing, and the eyes of those who were directly illuminated were painful. In front of the theater, the fat New Zealander was still greeting guests to enter, and standing next to him was Shay, the president of New Line Cinema. Director Jackson, congratulations on the release of your new film. Lemon walked forward with Eva's hand and a smile. Haha, you're here. Let's have a drink together when we are free tonight. Peter Jackson wore a chic smile and hugged Lemon tightly. Who is this? Eva Green, my girlfriend. Lemon introduced. Hello, Director Jackson. Eva extended her hand to Peter Jackson. Hello. Thank you for coming. She smiled politely as always. After entering the theater, Lemon greeted a few acquaintances and sat down in his seat with peace of mind. His seat was in the middle of the third row, and next to him were all directors, producers and other people in the circle. Eva sat next to him. About half an hour later, the interview session of the main creative staff began. Looking at the people on the stage reminiscing about the good and the bad, talking about various interesting things during the filming. Lemon's eyes were on a middle-aged man wearing glasses. This man was Richard Taylor, the leader of the special effects team responsible for The Lord of the Rings 3, The Return of the King. This guy became famous in the industry almost together with the Lord of the Rings series. From the first film, this visual effects filmmaker born in New Zealand gradually emerged. He won the Best Make-up and Best Visual Effects awards at the 72nd Academy Awards. Later, he founded Weta Workshop. Since then, his name has always been associated with great directors such as Peter Jackson, Steven Spielberg, and James Cameron. In addition to the Lord of the Rings series, some beautiful scene constructions and character models on Pandora in Avatar are also the results of him and his studio. He is a truly powerful special effects master. Lemon looked at him and wanted to recruit him. Unfortunately, Weta Workshop has become a big deal, and it is impossible to get it without more than $1 billion. It's just a thought. After the movie started, Lemon thought it was quite interesting. Although he had seen this movie before, it didn't prevent him from watching it again from another perspective. To be honest, Peter Jackson is worthy of the title of Tolkien's die-hard fan. Several scenes, such as the Battle of the Pelennor Fields and the Battle of the Black Gate, were restored to the greatest extent by mixing real shots with CG models. This guy started planning to adapt The Lord of the Rings in 1995. At that time, his old employer was Miramax, and Harvey also provided him with $10 million for early preparation. Harvey's vision is still good, but his personality is not good, and he likes to play tricks. Except for Quentin, many directors who have worked with him finally chose to leave him. After the project was approved, in order to rush to find buyers, Harvey and Jackson visited a number of film companies. In the end, it was Shea, the former president of New Line Cinema, who saw Jackson's preliminary work and said a famous sentence: "The original work of The Lord of the Rings is a trilogy. Why not do the movie like this?" Yes, the concept of trilogy was proposed by Shea. At that time, Hollywood was not popular with sequels. Peter Jackson originally wanted to finish The Lord of the Rings with one movie, but after hearing Shea's proposal, he probably loved the president so much that he took the initiative to give part of his adaptation rights to New Line. This is why Harvey and New Line had a conflict later. The three parties all held part of the copyright, but overall, Harvey had the least, and Peter Jackson betrayed his old club and switched to New Line. The combination of the two made Harvey lose the right to speak on this project. Seeing that the first part was profitable, Harvey couldn't stand such exclusion, so he decisively took the two to court. But the court was not the Oscars, and Harvey had no acquaintances, so he was directly knocked down. In the end, he accepted the amnesty and operated the Oscars for the Lord of the Rings series, striving to maximize the benefits and share some soup. However, Peter Jackson's thoughts at that time were easy to understand. Before that, he was just a B-level film director with some achievements. He had made 3 or 4 films with a total box office of less than $30 million. He unexpectedly got this unprecedented large-scale production series in the history of film, with a total investment of $300 million. With such great trust and favor, it is no wonder that he abandoned Harvey, who had never supported him like this. When comparing the two, who should be chosen? Moreover, in order to faithfully restore the Middle-earth world, this guy spent 3 years just writing the script and simulating the scenes. From the preparation in 1995 to the release of the first film in 2001, it took a full 6 years. Without such a thorough understanding of the original work and the energy-consuming preparation, there would be no glory today. The fantasy epic trilogy is well deserved. This must be the thing that Peter Jackson is most proud of in his life. Chapter 259 Return. Subscription recommendation. The success of a movie is multifaceted. Looking back now, what Lyman feels most deeply is the soundtrack. Let's first talk about Howard Shore, the soundtrack master responsible for this movie. He is a Canadian who worked as a live music director on evening talk shows such as Saturday Night Live in his early years. The biggest feature of this guy is that he is not so stylized. This is also what Peter Jackson likes about him. As early as the beginning of the filming of The Lord of the Rings, John Williams and James Horner were both candidates for the soundtrack of this series of movies. Perhaps you are a little unfamiliar with the names of these soundtrack masters, so let's use some metaphors to describe them. John Williams, whose representative works include Schindler's List, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Saving Private Ryan and Harry Potter, has a too grand and majestic soundtrack style, like a monk practicing Shaolin Kung Fu. James Horner, whose representative works include Titanic, Braveheart and A Beautiful Mind, has a tender and sweet soundtrack style, like a Taoist priest of Wudang sect. Howard Shore likes weirdness and cunning the most, and has composed music for Seven Deadly Sins, Panic Room and The Game, A Typical Evil Person. It can be said that he has a unique skill in creating gloomy situations, and is best at releasing his inner oppression through complex arrangements. When it comes to The Lord of the Rings, Howard Shore is like a fish in water, and truly brings out his weird and changeable temperament to the fullest. It is similar to practicing the evil mind with the famous and upright kung fu, and composing a magical taste with world music, magnificent symphony and percussion. At the end of the movie, when Frodo left his hometown and headed for the western continent of the elves, the camera gradually pulled up, and the low background sound sounded again, a perfect curtain call. In a small villa outside Beverly Hills, Akers Judd was washing and putting on makeup in the bedroom. As a female star, if she needs to go out, these are essential items. Coincidentally, today is the day of the final decision. The young director who has become famous and the heroine of the new project in cooperation with Warner. Under such factors, she can't help but pay attention. Although the media's focus has recently shifted from the preparation of Million Dollar Baby to the release of The Lord of the Rings 3, The Return of the King, on the first day, 3,703 theaters in the United States jointly opened the film, and the single-day box office won $34.1 million, and the global revenue was $57.6 million, which also broke the Wednesday single-day box office record set by Star Wars Episode 1 in 1999. However, for her, none of that is important. On the contrary, the 2-week training time that director Lyman mentioned had passed, and it was time to finalize the candidates. Will she be able to get the role in the end? She was a little unconfident, because she had also seen Hilary Swank's performance. She knew very well that, if she wanted to get this role, Hilary was the peak she had to climb. Sure enough, when she went to Firefly Pictures again in the afternoon, the words of the young director were like a sharp knife. "I'm sorry, Miss Akers, the candidate for the heroine has been decided. It's Hilary Swank." Akers Judd sighed slightly. She was somewhat prepared for her failure to be selected. Even so, she was still disappointed to hear such news. She has not been very lucky in recent years, or in other words, as an actress, if she can't become famous, it's not a smooth thing. There is no play to play, which is too fatal for an actor. Besides, in Hollywood, there are really too few opportunities for women. They are either vases or supporting roles. It's hard to get a role with weight, but they still miss it perfectly. However, she actually admires that girl. She stood up and was about to say goodbye politely, but the young director spoke again. "Wait, there is another role in this movie that is not so important. Are you willing to play Maggie's sister?" "Yes. Thank you, director." Akshay Judd turned around with a grateful face. She is not picky. It's good to have a role. To be honest, Lyman saw the performance of both of them. In terms of acting skills, the two are actually not bad. The competition is about who is more dedicated. After 2 weeks of training, Hilary Swank not only successfully gained weight, but also looked more and more like a female boxer, while Akshay Judd was a little worse. However, considering that people work so hard, other suitable roles in the movie can also be arranged. After most of the main actors were settled, Lyman looked at his watch. turned to Johnson and said, "Remember to notify their agents and ask Warner to start negotiations with them as soon as possible to determine the salary and let them join the group." After giving instructions, Lyman left the audition room, returned to his office to get the draft of the storyboard, and prepared to go home. In the lobby of the company, a short-haired lady was standing next to the elevator. When she heard the sound of leather shoes hitting the ground, she immediately turned around to look. This person was the heroine Hilary Swank, who had just finished the audition. "Hello, Director Lyman," she immediately greeted with a smile. Lyman nodded to her and said, "Come on, think more about the role. Don't let me down." "I will." The girl immediately clenched the script in her hand and nodded repeatedly. She was afraid that, if she was not careful, the opportunity she had finally got would slip away. They walked into the elevator together and went down to the first floor. After getting out of the elevator, Lyman waved his hand. "That's it. We'll talk about it on the day the crew starts shooting." After that, he walked towards the parking lot next to him. Hilary Swank watched Lyman's back gradually disappear in front of her eyes. Thinking about the audition just now, she was still very excited. She didn't forget to inform her agent of the news and tell her mother. To be honest, it was like a dream. The life in the past few weeks and the casting were completely different from what she thought. It was not an optional supporting role, nor was it selected based on her face and fame. She won the role of Maggie only by her hard work. Once upon a time, such a scene was only imagined when she first entered the entertainment industry. The longer you stay, the more you know that it is not easy. Putting down the phone, looking at the script in your hand, your chest is still beating violently. Not far away, a black Bentley passed by the exit of the gate. In a glimpse, Hilary Swank seemed to see the familiar figure, and a smile slowly hung on the corner of her mouth. What a unique director, isn't it? Then, the agent came. He was more excited than Hilary Swank. After getting out of the car, he repeatedly confirmed the correctness of the news. It wasn't until Hilary told him for the 13th time with absolute certainty that he finally accepted the fact. This is crazy. Chapter 260. Arrangements before the expedition. Subscription recommendation. In the meeting room of Firefly Pictures, except for a few former senior managers who were not familiar with Lyman, everyone else was quite casual. Thomas pulled an office chair and sat upright next to Lyman, holding the draft of the story in his hand and studying the placement of the camera. Johnson was fine, sitting upright on the left side of Lyman, but his eyes were erratic, and I don't know what he was thinking. Crew members such as York and Josh sat together and whispered. However, this was just a simple project discussion, and it was okay to be present. Two company employees were busy making coffee for everyone, and another errand boy was handing out Johnson's photocopied shooting schedule to everyone. After a quick look, Joyce Laura from the finance department reported the accounts roughly at Lyman's beckoning. Excluding various expenses, prop rental, scene construction, and team salaries, $1 Million Baby had not yet started shooting, and only $17.62 million of the $30 million budget remained. Well, let me say a few words first. After Laura finished speaking, Lyman continued, "This is our company's second project, and we are still cooperating with a big company like Warner. We don't have to make a lot of money, but at least we shouldn't lose money, right? People in our industry are all very realistic. The more realistic, the less likely we are to fail. If the movie is profitable, then everyone can get more money. If you are familiar with me, you should know that I'm not a stingy person." He said a lot of nonsense, boosted morale, and looked forward to the future. Lyman then talked about business. "There are 2 days before the official shooting. Do you have any problems that have not been solved? The shooting equipment is ready." Thomas spoke first. "There is no problem with the construction of several scenes. This is what York said. The props needed are also okay." Lyman nodded, very satisfied with the crew's preliminary work, and then asked Johnson, "Have all the actors been notified?" "Yes, I called them all." "That's good." Lyman thought for a while, and then said, "Wait a minute, you will go back to the set first and check again to see if there are any omissions. Thomas, you go to the Los Angeles city government and ask them for the right to shoot the streets. Johnson, you go to CAA to gather a group of extras for the subsequent shooting. Under appropriate circumstances, Lyman is willing to give something back to CAA. For example, Johnson almost took all the supporting roles and group performances to please CAA, which is part of the reason why CAA is willing to support Lyman. The two are mutually beneficial. One has resources and the other can cash in. Why not? Hearing this, Johnson naturally had no problem, but Thomas said with a bitter face, "I'm not familiar with those government officials. Who should I find?" Lyman smiled and said, "I believe in your ability. You will know if you go and ask seriously. It is not illegal to borrow the street for filming." As they were talking, a staff member at the front desk suddenly knocked on the door and walked in. He ran to Lyman and whispered, "Mr. Ryan is here. Let him come up." Lyman said, and said to everyone, "Okay, that's it. Everyone go down and do your own things." The conference room became empty in the blink of an eye. Other people were fine. They were very happy that Ryan came. But Blake Cole, the head of the marketing department of Firefly Pictures, lamented in his heart. He had been in this company for so many years, and finally sat in the management position. He also witnessed Lyman's acquisition of the original company and the immediate reorganization. His salary and status in the industry rose visibly. He wanted to show his skills, but he was a temporary worker. Once Ryan came, his identity would become that person's deputy, which was really a tragedy. But this can't be blamed on Lyman, who trusted Ryan more. There are less than 50 employees in the company at present, but most of them are not as familiar with him as the original management, which is a taboo in the workplace. Lyman doesn't want to work hard to make movies outside, but his family's assets are guarded by a group of outsiders. Not only the marketing department, but also several other departments must be slowly transformed into his confidants, so that he can feel at ease. After returning to his president's office, the girl at the front desk led Ryan, who had not been seen for a long time, in a short while. Maybe it was because he just got off the plane and rushed over immediately, so he was a little depressed. But when he saw Lyman, he still hugged him happily. "I didn't expect that you also acquired a film company." Ryan sat aside, looking at Lyman with great curiosity, which made Lyman embarrassed. "Why are you staring at me?" "No, I just find it a little weird. When we opened a studio, I handled most of the affairs, and you ignored it. Now you don't think of finding something to do for yourself. You have changed, Lyman." After saying that, he shook his head with a sigh, as if he was regretting. "Don't be funny. I've handed over the marketing department of the company to you. Remember to pay more attention to it." Ryan knew about this a long time ago. Not long after Rodriguez Pictures changed its name, and before $1 Million Baby was prepared for filming, Lyman called him to tell him. At that time, he was busy with the overseas distribution of Bad Guys with Europa Pictures, and also participated in the investment of Transporter. When he first heard the news, he was shocked for a long time. He knew how lazy Lyman was before. He didn't care about anything except making movies. Oh, by the way, Europa Films has already paid part of the overseas share of the film. Now, Man Studio still has $330 million in its account. If we add the subsequent share, we can get $370 million. Do you want to transfer this money? The overseas box office of Bad Guys is close to $400 million US. According to the sharing terms signed by both parties, they can get 15%, which is about $45 million US. Leave $30 million in the account and transfer the rest gradually. It's an empty shell over there. It will only be used to negotiate cooperation with Europa Films. It can be regarded as a French office. The real development is still Firefly Films. Lyman thought about it and said, if this is done, Ryan will hold 50% of Firefly's shares in the name of Man Studio, and Lyman will also hold 50% of Man Studio shares. In other words, Ryan only has 25% of Firefly's shares. This will also make it easier for Lyman to operate, because in the future, when the development is big, there will always be a need to distribute some dry shares to gather people's hearts. Furthermore, if we seek cooperation, or acquire a distribution company, we will inevitably need to replace it. Of course, that is all in the future. Chapter 261. Filming starts. Subscription recommendation request. December 25th. Cloudy. At about 10 o'clock in the morning, Lyman led the crew to a place far from downtown Los Angeles. There was a boxing gym built in a warehouse, streets, and communities here, which was the best location for $1 Million Baby. There was no programmed opening ceremony. Warner wanted to make some noise, but Lemon refused, because it was unnecessary. With the help of the Directors Guild, they negotiated with the community residents, and completed the relevant procedures. The crew started filming here in a low-key manner. Reporters and others who got wind of the news, and came to interview were also avoided. Everything was carried out in an orderly manner. The set had been completed long ago. At the shooting site, the voice of the stage manager was heard soon. "Let's rehearse first." Then Lemon raised the megaphone and said, "Thomas, check the camera position carefully." The lighting team made a mistake, and the sound recording team brought the radio equipment over. The rehearsal began. Several extras simply began to practice their positions, hoping not to steal the spotlight during the shooting. 5 minutes later, after confirming that there was no problem with the actors' cooperation, Lemon stood behind the director's monitor and immediately said, "All departments, get ready. Camera number 1. Okay. Lighting? No problem." As the heads of various departments reached out to confirm, the script supervisor stood in front of the main camera and tapped the clapperboard lightly. $1 Million Baby, Scene 5, Scene 1, Shot 1, Action. A crisp clapperboard sounded, and then the monitor in front of Lemon showed the shooting picture of camera number 1. This scene was the daily training of Frankie played by Eastwood in the boxing gym, and the first appearance of Eddie played by Morgan Freeman, the only friend of Frankie. This casting is consistent with the previous life, because this guy's voice is very magnetic, and he is needed to do a post-production narration dubbing. In addition to Morgan Freeman, Lemon did not know any particularly suitable candidates. Moreover, the two had worked together in Bad Guys, and he and Clint Eastwood were also old acquaintances. After a slight invitation, he happily joined the group. The 3 camera positions were placed separately. Camera number 1 is the main perspective for capturing close-ups of people, and is controlled by Thomas himself. Because he will need to follow the filming later, and there is no slide rail or fixed tripod, the camera needs to be carried on the shoulder. Although this shoulder-mounted camera is not particularly heavy, it is very demanding for the photographer. The hand cannot shake at all, and even the moving lens must be kept at a very slight amplitude. Once it shakes, the picture will collapse, and the whole shot will be no good. It has to be done again. And Lemon is quite impressed with Thomas's skills. This guy's not interested in many things. He is unwilling to cultivate him, or bring him to management, but he really loves filming. His hands are as steady as an old dog, and he understands Lemon's shooting intentions. He is a veritable royal photographer, and Lemon is not used to leaving him. Camera number 2 is responsible for side shooting, with a fixed perspective, and can be pushed slowly with a slide rail. Camera number 3 is simpler, and can be completed by any photography assistant. It is mainly responsible for shooting the street scenery at the door, which will be used in post-editing. Clint Eastwood was wearing a brown-gray woolen coat, and carrying an old shoulder bag whose shell was beginning to fall off. He lowered his head, his hair was a little messy, his beard was unkempt, and his expression was dull. He only put on a little make-up on his face. It was to make him look older, and his face looked sallow. "Morning, morning." Eastwood waved his hand, slowly returned to his seat, and poured himself a glass of water. Cut. Lemon stared at the performance, felt something was wrong, and decisively called a halt. Eastwood turned his head, and looked at Lemon, a little puzzled. During this period, he also thought about the role carefully, and felt that his state was quite in line with the requirements of the situation. "Your eyes are too bright, a little dim. You are an ordinary person, and you have a conflict with your daughter. When you say hello, you are a little slow. It seems that you are worried," Lemon pointed out without hesitation. The staff around him smacked their lips secretly. Clint Eastwood, he is also a director, a senior person in the industry, okay, but he still pointed out the shortcomings seriously. Eastwood thought about it, and felt that what he said was right. A loser in life is not as dull as he just did. He nodded, returned to his position, and prepared to do it again. At this time, he was just an actor. Cut. Do it again. The eyes are enough. The walking posture is wrong. The shoulders are slightly collapsed, and the movements are slow. Morgan Freeman, you didn't greet him right just now. Wait until he is about to pass you, then greet him again. Do it again. Originally, Hilary Swank was still pulling Akash Judd. The two little transparent people were chatting quietly in the corner of the crew. The two had trained together and were quite familiar with each other. In addition, they were the only two people in the entire crew who knew each other, and they didn't dare to communicate with others. Everything around was so new, and then I saw the director shouting, cut one after another, and the two old actors also listened to his talk seriously. The problem is that he didn't interrupt the filming for no reason. Every time he pointed out the shortcomings. Akshay Judd has been in many crews, and although he didn't have many roles, it was the first time he saw such a serious director. Not to mention Hilary Swank, as the leading actress, she was also pointed out to improve herself, and she couldn't do what the director required. In just a moment, cold sweat broke out on her skin. Director Lyman is really amazing. No wonder his movies are always so popular. Akshay Judd, who was standing by, seemed to have the urge to become a little fangirl. Lyman really knows how to train actors. It's not that he has so many acting skills, but he can always get the actors into the best state during filming. Keep improving. Heath Ledger and Jason Statham are all examples. After filming Bad Guys, Tom Cruise seemed to have his Ren and Do meridians opened up, and his acting ability increased greatly. Although he soon gave it back, this guy reached an agreement with Paramount Pictures and went to film Mission Impossible 3. He couldn't play that role without being handsome and cool, which was considered a return to his true self. Yeah. Hilary Swank responded with two nods. She turned around and picked up the script on the chair and started to read it. Akshay Judd waited for a long time, but his friend didn't speak. He turned around and felt that his forehead was black. Please, is it necessary to do this? On the other side, after the fourth shooting, it finally went smoothly. Lyman took out the footage in the monitor and took a closer look. He felt very satisfied. As he nodded, the studio also felt relieved. The first shot was completed. Chapter 260 to continue. Subscription recommendation. Make way, make way. Ryan shouted with a megaphone on a street outside the Helen community in Los Angeles. Behind him, more than a dozen movers were carrying various billboards and some graffiti stickers, setting up scenes on the walls on both sides of the street. Everyone on the street looked at them sideways, but because there were several stagehands stopping them, no one came in to disturb their work. In fact, when shooting on location in the United States, the most feared thing is to shoot passers-by, because this involves the privacy rights of citizens. At the least, the footage will be deleted, and at the worst, a huge amount of compensation will be paid. Therefore, it is necessary to communicate with the local government agencies and the actors union, and prepare a case. The Helen community next door was also not idle, and decoration was being carried out. Among them, one of the rooms rented by the crew, that is, Maggie's home, needs to be made more in line with the temperament of the heroine. Ryan was carrying the filming equipment with Lyman, and reminded him, we only have 2 hours of shooting time. If it still doesn't work, we can only discuss it with them tomorrow. Yes, now this section of road is closed for street shooting by the crew for only 2 hours. Whether it is completed or not, it only lasts that long today. Don't worry, it's just 2 shots. It's easy to complete. Lyman patted the dust off his hands and comforted. I hope it will go smoothly. While the two were talking, a man in a flowery green gown walked into the set in a very showy manner. Looking at the gradually completed street scene, he exclaimed in an exaggerated way, wow, so many advertisements are placed. The man who came was Nicolas Cage. Speaking of which, Lyman didn't want to trouble anyone for this small supporting role with only 2 scenes, and just found a male actor who matched the image. But unfortunately, this guy had just finished filming National Treasure, and had nothing to do at home. After hearing that Lyman was going to shoot a new film, he immediately called to ask if there was anything he could help with. Lyman originally thought that Cage was very popular, and it was no use playing a passerby supporting role with only a few lines. Maybe he would participate for his own face. However, Lyman didn't like forced melons. But he thought so, and Cage was not happy. He still felt that he was being polite to him, and the close cooperation between the two of them was questioned again. Well, this guy ran from Miami, where he invested in real estate, to Beverly Hills in Los Angeles one night before filming. He met Lyman at his home. After reading the script, he said something about how deep the character was and how much he liked it. Damn, it was just a passerby character, and even the background was not explained. There was no room for exploration. It was just to comfort Maggie after she failed in her boxing career, and to be a spiritual mentor to set off the heroine. But he just thought it was good and wanted to take it. Maybe he knew that his current value was too high and Lyman's broken crew couldn't afford to pay him, and he took the initiative to say that it was a friendly performance and he didn't want to be paid, but provided food. To be honest, this touched Lyman a little. The entertainment industry is really realistic. The more real examples you see and hear, the more you will feel that these actors are precious and worthy of your favoritism. Heath Ledger and Nicolas Cage are like this. Of course, with Cage's personality, his ideas are simpler. Fury took the failure of Wind Talkers and brought his acting career to a new peak. Bad Guys was even better, making him the top of the first line. Now major studios are rushing to send him cooperation invitations, and everyone is willing to pay him high salaries. Cage knows better than anyone how these come from. Moreover, if we must look at it from the perspective of interests, Lyman's movies are the benchmark of box office sales. Although playing a small supporting role, even if the box office explodes, it has little to do with him. But some things cannot be measured only by temporary gains and losses. Why are you here now? It will take a few days for you to have a role. Lyman saw Cage and smiled knowingly and went up to hug him. It doesn't matter. I have nothing to do during this period. It's also good to join the group in advance to feel the shooting atmosphere, Cage explained. Oh, by the way, are these advertisements from sponsors? He pointed to the billboards that the crew was placing. Yeah, it's more than 2 million. Just show your face and take a quick look. Warner was quite good at handling things. After referring to the opinions on the shooting scene, it immediately brought in several sponsors, including Nike. A shot that lasted less than 1 second was priced at more than $800,000. I don't know what those sponsors were thinking, but they were willing to do so. Well, Lyman misjudged his current value. He had sponsors to support him in the past, but most of them were not so generous and had many requirements. Sometimes he was unwilling and rejected several of them. But now is different from the past. As his works become more and more successful, some sponsors have redefined the promotional role of his movies. And for some series of movies, the ability to bring goods is even stronger. Whether it is the old 007 or the new Tomb Raider, or the later Fast and Furious, relying on the sponsorship of the sponsor alone can solve a large part of the funding problem. The most terrifying thing is Tomb Raider. The movie invested $130 million, and all the investment was recovered before it was released. Envy after Nicolas Cage arrived. He chatted with Lyman, Ryan, and Thomas while helping with some small things. While he was busy, he suddenly asked, "Do you know the Oscars PR team? Why are you asking this? Do you still want to win the Oscar?" "That's not the case. My cousin made a movie and wants to compete for the Oscar in February next year. I want to ask you if you have any good candidates." Think about it carefully. That's true. Didn't Sofia Coppola make a movie Lost in Translation this year? Doesn't Focus Features have a good PR team? They are backed by Universal. No, they have their considerations, and I want the movie to win the Best Director Oscar. At this point, Lyman understood. Perhaps the distributor and Cage's goals are inconsistent, and this guy wants his cousin to get the honor that belongs to the director. So he wants to pay for a side PR out of his own pocket to increase competitiveness. But I don't think it will be useful, Lyman said tactfully. Let's give it a try. It's good to get a nomination. Cage was calm. He had experienced all kinds of Oscar rules before, and if he had a nomination, he would be more likely to win if he had a chance to compete for an Oscar in the future. Let me ask Kevin. He was the one who helped with it. Thank you. You're welcome. It's just a small matter. About 15 minutes later, everything was ready and the shooting began. Chapter 263 Boxing. Subscription recommendation. This scene is the first scene of the heroine Maggie Fitzgerald. It is also Hilary Swank's first performance in the crew. She probably wanted to prove herself. In all these years, she had only seen the dawn of fame. Before filming, when putting on makeup, she kept simulating in her mind how she would perform when she went on stage. And she did it well. In the story, after a boxing match, Maggie found Frankie and wanted to practice boxing under him. Behind the director's monitor, Lemon kept staring at the screen. No. Clint Eastwood rejected the girl's proposal without thinking. "I'm a good fighter. I think you might want to train me." Hilary Swank walked side by side with Eastwood, still not giving up. "I don't train girls." Eastwood frowned slightly, still firm. "Maybe you want to give it a try. People who have seen my matches think I'm very strong." Hearing this, Eastwood stopped and looked at the girl very seriously. "Miss, being strong is not enough." After saying that, he left without looking back. In the narrow employee passage, Hilary Swank watched people leave quietly, a little discouraged. She slung her bag across her hand, took a few deep breaths, and then quietly returned to leave. The camera slowly followed behind her, filming her back. She came out of the boxing gym and walked along the street, lowering her head slightly. Occasionally, when she was in the mood, she would jump a few times and practice sideways dodging. In the eyes of some background board extras who looked at her like a lunatic, she still did her own thing. Click. It's over. Next game. Lemon waved his hand, and the makeup staff on the side quickly pulled Hilary Swank to touch up her makeup. Next, there are a few more shots of her. On the other side, Akash Judd was still rehearsing with the script. He figured out the role over and over again and conceived the performance. Seeing that Hilary passed the first take, she secretly envied him and ran to congratulate him. To be honest, a small unknown person in the crew like her often has to wait for the scenes of several leading actors to be arranged before it is her turn. Just like today's scenes, if everything goes well, the performances of Hilary Swank, Clint Eastwood and even Morgan Freeman are all good. Then she can shoot around 3 or 4 p.m. If it doesn't go well, then today is another day of waiting in vain. A small supporting role has no human rights and will not be taken seriously by the crew. But fortunately, Akshay Judd is too familiar with such a situation. Since she entered the entertainment industry, she has spent countless waiting. "You were great just now." In the makeup car, Akshay Judd said with 30% sincerity and 70% release of goodwill. "Really? Actually, I was still very nervous. When I was speaking the lines, I almost didn't remember them." Hilary Swank smiled. Then, the two of them chatted. In fact, Akshay Judd is a pretty smart person. She can recognize her position and know what she needs. For a young actor like her, what she needs most is to seize every possible opportunity. Building a good relationship with the main creators, directors, and big name actors is also a compulsory course for young actors in this circle. Although she was still working hard for the heroine of the movie some time ago, it was embarrassing to get slightly close to the heroine in the blink of an eye. But her mentality is very calm. If you have never competed, you have never competed. Instead of complaining and cursing, it is better to think about how to get to know these people in the crew. Forget about director Lemon. If you casually approach him, it is very likely to make him unhappy, which is not worth the loss. Although Lemon feels that his temper is okay, he doesn't know it. The remaining leading actors are similar. Occasionally, they can chat a few words when they act together, but there is no room for contact. It will only be counterproductive to get close to them rashly. After all, only Hilary Swank, who is still familiar, is a good breakthrough target. If this movie is really successful again, as the heroine of the movie, she will have this qualification, and it will be much easier for her to find resources in the circle. Moreover, this kind of thing is very likely to happen. As an old man who has been in Hollywood for more than 10 years, Akash Judd has seen it very clearly. Here, people are always chasing successful people. And she just wants a possible opportunity, or the inside story of the role, or the leading actor saying a few words to the casting director, or a private invitation. No matter what it is extremely necessary for her. Newcomers want to make it in Hollywood. In addition to having a big sponsor like a Godfather, or a family relationship that is too awesome, such as Cage, Sophia, the Coppola family, and second-generation stars like Jake Gyllenhaal. Many times, they rely on their own emotional intelligence. To be more realistic, it is to make people happy, make connections, and let others help you. What kind of acting foundation and what kind of celebrity personality are only considered by famous people. In this process, it is actually a process of accumulation for many people. Some people think that being born beautiful and willing to accept unspoken rules is not a problem. It's true. There are a new batch of beautiful girls every 3 to 5 years, not to mention that the plastic surgery industry is getting more and more powerful, and it's just a matter of money to change your appearance. How many of them can make it out of the siege? If the casting of movies depends on unspoken rules, then this game can't be played. Why? There are so many people willing to do it. Then it comes back to the question, who to choose? Akshay Judd sees it very clearly, so she has a place in Hollywood, even though she is not beautiful. On the contrary, in these years, we have seen too many beautiful girls who quickly disappear without a trace once their youth is gone, and are replaced by a new batch of girls with acting dreams. Newcomers should learn to flatter. It's not shameful. Sometimes, just by simply knowing someone, you can easily get the opportunity to be looked up to by others. This is too normal in the circle. Who doesn't want to take care of acquaintances who have a good impression when they can? Hilary Swank, are you ready? Not long after, a stagehan came running over to remind her, wait a moment, we'll start shooting. No problem, I'm okay here. Hilary, who had already put on her makeup, said, well, there are some changes to today's shooting schedule. The next shot will be a view at home. Got it? Understood. Seeing the girl nod, the stagehan also completed his task and hurried back to the set to report to the stagehan. About 5 minutes later, the stagehan slapped the board again. All departments get ready action. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264 Eel Shot, Subscription Recommendation. The following shots were more difficult, with more scenes and extras. There were always some mistakes. There were not only problems with the actors, but also with the sets, props and shooting. However, this was not the first time. Lyman still seemed to be at ease. The busy life on the set was really fulfilling. Gradually, a week passed, and the performances of the crew members and actors were getting better and better. Although tired, everyone had been in the filming for a long time. Even Clint Eastwood did not take this level of hard work seriously, and no one felt that they could not stand it. Occasionally, when the filming was finished early, everyone would get together for a meal and find a restaurant to change the food standard. Everyone was tired of the food on the crew, which was either pizza, hamburgers, or various KFC fast food. Going out to eat something delicious, like Mexican food or German food, was still very good. This was also to taste the special food. Anyway, the crew paid for it. However, no alcohol was allowed. Their filming task this time was very heavy, and Lyman also wanted to finish the filming early. So it was not so enjoyable, but no one complained. If there was, no one dared to say it in front of Lyman. In recent days, Lyman has also been observing the atmosphere of the crew. The shooting team are all familiar with each other who have worked on several movies. They have a good understanding of each other. It depends mainly on the actors. Clint Eastwood is actually very easy to talk to. He is far from being as unapproachable and tough as his screen characters. In the crew, he and Morgan Freeman are most interested in chatting. Maybe it's because the age difference is not too big. They have a common voice. As for Cage, this guy has been here for almost a week. After finishing the thin scenes long ago, he still hesitated and flew to New York under the urging of his agent's phone call, saying that he was going to meet with the public relations team. Lyman admires Hilary Swank more and more, and he also has a good impression of Akash Judd. The shooting is still going on for one day. It was still dawn when the crew started working. The venue was also changed to a professional boxing gym in Los Angeles, because today's filming was a formal female boxing match of Maggie. Originally, they were planning to pose for the photos one by one, but that was too troublesome and the effect was not good. Just when Lyman was thinking about how to change his mindset to shoot, Hilary Swank actually took the initiative to propose a real shot. Are you sure? He didn't want to do that. It would be very dangerous. Her opponent was a real lightweight boxer and a member of the coaching team, a professional. Hilary Swank still smiled. No problem, I can do it. Lemon thought for a long time and asked Thomas again, if you do this, how difficult will it be to shoot? Thomas was very honest and answered without hesitation, real shooting will definitely be better. Although the boxing ring is very narrow, there should be no problem for me to take the camera myself. It's mainly an actress. Her every move will be recorded, and there can't be any unprofessional boxer movements. You know what I mean. I can do it. Hilary Swank said again with certainty. I have practiced for a long time. It will be fine. This is true. Except for the 2 weeks of training, she still did not stop honing her boxing skills during the shooting. Well, then, let's film it for real. Seeing that the actors were so proactive, Lemon decided, let's ask the nearby community hospital to send some medical staff, and he found the female boxer who was going to leave the stage next and repeatedly reminded her, when you punch later, you must hold back. Do you understand me? Yes. Not long after, several doctors also came. Many people in the crew looked at the actor on the field. They were secretly shocked by her fighting spirit. Boxing matches are not a joke. Although it is definitely not that real, it must be uncomfortable to be hit by a punch. Come on. Hilary Swank put on her gloves, bit her mouth guard, and secretly encouraged herself in her heart. I can do it. I can do it. Come on. After Thomas carried a camera to his position, several actors who were preparing in the audience were a little impressed. Morgan Freeman thought he was a very dedicated actor, but it was still incredible to see a girl being so ruthless. When did the girls in Hollywood become so powerful? She didn't cry or make a fuss, and took the initiative to ask for better filming effects. Not to mention Axel Judd, who was convinced that he got the role already. 5 minutes later, the script supervisor came over and said, at this time, on the boxing ring, 2 fully armed girls were warming up. Under the boxing ring, Clint Eastwood was standing there, and in the seats next to him were crew members and a group of extras hired by CAA as spectators. Lemon stood behind the director's monitor, watching Hilary's increasingly sharp eyes, and couldn't help but sigh. This level of dedication is no less than that of Tom Cruise jumping out of a plane, or parachuting at low altitude in his 50s. They all have this spirit. Action. As soon as the script supervisor hit the board, Lemon quickly threw away some unnecessary distractions and stared at the monitor. Hilary Swank had already bumped fists in a friendly manner at the referee's signal. The two sides moved apart and tried to test their positions. You advance, I retreat. You go left, I go right. Their eyes were always focused on each other. Suddenly, the opponent made a fake move, and while his left hand was dangling, his right fist broke through Hilary's defense and hit her left cheekbone. In just a moment, he staggered twice, holding the soft rope, and his body was unable to exert any strength. Sorry. The boxer on the other side was also anxious, and hurried over to apologize. You know, she used a lot of force in this punch, otherwise she would have a concussion, and be sent directly to the hospital. But even so, Hilary Swank, who had not been trained to be beaten, still felt a little dizzy. Naturally, she couldn't continue filming. After a brief examination, the doctor said that there was no problem. About 2 or 3 minutes later, Hilary also survived and continued to ask for filming. At this time, the left half of her face was very red, and it was obvious that the previous blow was not very good. You two should pay more attention and use less force. Lemon had no better way except to remind more. Fortunately, after this time, the two had some experience. The punches seemed brave, but they would hold back or simply dodge. With the coordination of Mac-up and camera angle, the shots looked quite good, with the sharp effect of fighting. At the end, both of them had some minor injuries, but the ones on their faces were exaggerated, and they were sweating. Chapter 265 Dedication. Subscription recommendation. Hilary Swank conquered the crew with her actions. A person with an actor's professionalism is often more likely to be liked by the director. At least, that's the case with Lemon. He always likes to use those dedicated actors because he feels it's worth it. It's also a very comfortable thing to work with these actors. It's better than those who have nothing to do and find a substitute once they don't want to act. December 28th, downtown Los Angeles, the set of the movie $1 Million Baby. After a few more days of shooting, the crew suddenly became stumbling, not because the actors had too many NGs or the crew made mistakes, but because of the frequent transitions. Most of the time was busy with the set building. And for the boxing scenes, Lyman wanted to concentrate on getting them all done before shooting the others, which would help Hilary Swank find that competitive state. At noon, after eating the crew's fast food, the shooting continued. Move camera number 1 here, and put that poster up a little higher. Yes, put it there. Lyman directed the work on the set. Thomas was still studying the storyboard script next to him, and several actors gathered together to rehearse their lines. It was finally done, with a little light Macupe, Akers Judd, who plays the sister of Maggie in the film, came on stage. She was set to be emotionally indifferent. Even when she saw Maggie injured her spine and paralyzed in bed, her words were still very hurtful. In other words, Maggie's family relationship is not good. Her mother is concerned that such a disability will not drag her down. She brought a contract for Maggie to sign, intending to divide some of the property she earned from boxing. Under the camera, Hilary Swank, with a pale face, lay on the hospital bed. Because she could not move below the neck, her performance was only verbal and facial macro expressions, without any physical meaning. Why did you wait until now? She had tears in her eyes, and was very unbelievable. It was the 5th day after she injured her spine when her mother came to visit with her sister. What she said was not comfort, but some damned property transfer contract. What do you mean by that? Axel Judd stepped forward and said in an even more incredulous tone. This time, Maggie finally gave up. Mom, you guys go home. I want to rest. Sign first, and we'll go back after signing. Mom took the contract and wanted to let Maggie bite the pen and sign her name. The camera slowly pulled out a group portrait. In the ward, the painful Maggie closed her eyes sadly. Axel Judd looked as if it was a matter of course, and the shocked lawyer. He wanted to say something, but he didn't know what to say. Just watching a group of people kidnapping Maggie in the name of family. Click, past. Lyman looked at the picture on the monitor and nodded with satisfaction. These actors are all very good, and the chemistry they produced is also very good. Switch to a close-up. He looked in the direction of Thomas. What this meant was that the medium-wide shot just taken was ready, and now we would shoot a close-up of Hilary Swank's face. Hearing this, several actors on the set breathed a sigh of relief. Of course, excluding the heroine, the next scene was almost hers alone. The closer the camera was, the more her every macro expression would be magnified. Thomas moved the camera, set up the position, and prepared to continue shooting the scene at different angles and distances. It seemed that this should not be difficult, as it was just one person's scene. But by the time it was finished, it took almost half an hour. After the shooting was completed, it also announced that all of Akash Judd's scenes had been completed. She changed out of her costume, came out of the dressing room, and walked straight to Lyman's position. He was standing behind the director's monitor, and rarely left that area. Judd, you've worked hard. Lyman greeted the person who came. What's the matter? Seeing that she didn't speak, Lyman asked again. The inquiring look made Akshay Judd a little nervous, but he still said firmly, Director Lyman, after my part is over, can I continue to stay on the crew to watch the next filming? Seeing her expectant look, Lyman said with a smile, why is it that the food on the crew is so good that you don't want to leave? Akshay Judd was made even more unsure by Lyman's laughter and said with his head down, I know my acting is not very good, so I want to learn seriously in the crew. Why? Lyman was a little confused. It was the first time he saw an actor who didn't want to leave after finishing his part. That's it. That's it. Just as Akshay Judd was thinking of a better reason, Lyman suddenly said, I agree. After that, he went to find Thomas to study the next shooting shots. I think this girl has her own little calculations, maybe to build connections, or maybe something else, but Lyman doesn't mind her doing this. Fighting for the direction of your own career, even if it seems deliberate, why refuse? Akshay Judd was stunned for a moment, then realized that his request was granted, and a smile appeared on his lips. The crew was filming in the set. Suddenly, 2003 had passed, and 2004 had arrived. All the excitement in December had nothing to do with them, and the various parties during the award season had nothing to do with them. In this busy and fulfilling filming, they seem to be forgotten. Hollywood has never lacked hotspots. Even though he was the focus of newspapers and media some time ago, in the blink of an eye, he was buried by more real-time and hot news. After half a month of screening, The Lord of the Rings 3, The Return of the King has exceeded 200 million in North American box office, and is heading towards the 300 million mark. Almost all industry insiders and forecasting agencies believe that with such a craze, the final market landing point will not be too low. New Line Cinema is even more happy to see the rising box office day by day. It has held 2 consecutive celebration banquets. With their momentum, the third one will not be too far away. As for the month, The Last Samurai, which was the successor to The Matrix Revolutions, reaped a wave of box office revenue, but then quickly fell. Even Tom Cruise is urging everyone to watch it on a variety show was of no avail. The final drop is probably no more than $150 million. Of course, this film was originally intended to please the Japanese market, and Warner Brothers was not the victim. On the contrary, both Tom Cruise and the distributor Warner Brothers made a lot of money, and only the Japanese investors were bleeding. Of course, their original purpose was to promote the Japanese Bushido spirit, to spread Japanese culture, and establish a sense of identity. It cannot be said that one loses, and the other gains, but that each achieved its own goal. Chapter 266 Annual Final List, Subscription Recommendation Request. 2003 has passed, and the year-end North American box office list has just been released. It was not until then that Lyman, who was busy shooting in a remote corner, seemed to be remembered again. In 2003, which just ended, he may not be the most popular and the most watched director, but he is the director with the fastest rising momentum. He almost announced his debut on the stage of Hollywood Vanity Fair in an extremely tough way. Looking at the North American market throughout the year, it is enough to leave a place. The Lord of the Rings 3, The Return of the King continues the strength of the previous work as always. Director Peter Jackson is undoubtedly the brightest star this year. So far, the North American box office has won the championship of the year-end list with $353.6 million. But this is not the end. Although the market has already declined significantly after a period of screening, it is estimated that it is not a problem to get more than 10 million. Even so, it has already locked the absolute dominance of the first place. At the same time, this result is only behind Titanic, 650 million, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, 470 million, and Et the Extraterrestrial, 430 million, ranking 4th in film history. In other words, the profits created by the entire trilogy of the Lord of the Rings series are enough to make every investor jealous. It can be expected that the era of blockbusters and blockbuster production will become more and more fierce. After that, Pixar Studios' Finding Nemo won the second place, with a North American box office of more than 339 million. Of course, there is nothing to be particularly happy about. For Pixar, the animations they produced have basically been in the top 3 in previous years, and have never fallen behind. As for the third place, it is Bad Guys, which has earned more than 334 million in the North American market and instantly reminded countless people in the industry of him. This is also the only French director in film history to be on the North American year-end list, which is enough to make people a little unbelievable. On the one hand, people are surprised that a black crime film can achieve such a good result, and on the other hand, they are surprised at the completeness of the content of the work. This is only the 4th feature film of this director, and it is already worth looking up to. Back then, Three Idiots became famous at the Sundance Film Festival. Even if it won the Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film, everyone generally believed that the film industry had produced another powerful independent director. Such talents will always appear every 3 to 5 years, and it is no longer surprising. Going back, there are the Coen brothers, representative works, Blood Simple, Fargo, No Country for Old Men, and more recently Quentin Tarantino. Just when people speculated that he was the second Quentin, a year later, his name appeared in the top 3 of the North American year-end box office list. To be honest, this is definitely not a field that an independent director can touch, and it is even more incredible than him winning the Oscar for Best Director, although he has never even been nominated. But, such a rapid change is outrageous. If it didn't really happen in front of us, no one would believe it. Unfortunately, reality is always more psychedelic than stories. First, the war movie Fury slapped the faces of countless film critics. The casting of Nicolas Cage was a hot topic at the time, attracting countless attention and ridicule. The final results were enough to make people speechless. At that time, he really began to transition from an independent director to a commercial director. Although major Hollywood film companies saw his potential and money prospects, the subsequent Bad Guys seemed to be immediately transformed with a mature commercial rhythm that made people sigh. Especially the characterization of Tom Cruise was even more eye-catching. This also forced people to re-evaluate Lemon's directing ability. It was also from this time that Barry Mears' idea of winning over him was firmed. Whether it was digging into the deep meaning of the movie or the tight plot rhythm, whether it was the ability to train actors or the stability of filming, it was amazing. Following Bad Guys was another surprise last summer, Pirates of the Caribbean. The long-lost pirate theme actually earned $306 million. The high position of the fourth place at the end of the year made Disney, which has always been not good at making live-action movies, overjoyed. However, it is worth mentioning that this list seems to be a fight between Disney and Warner. Disney occupies 2 seats in the top 4. Pixar Studios was acquired by Disney, while Warner won the 5th, 9th, and 10th places with The Matrix 2 and 3 and Terminator 3, and got 3 seats. In general, Warner is still ahead in terms of the total data score. However, what makes Warner a little disappointed is that the third sequel of The Matrix is not as high as the second one, and the second one is not as high as the first one. It is completely the opposite of the market performance of the Lord of the Rings series, which is also surprising. Is this the so-called high opening and low closing? As for the 6th, 7th and 8th places, they are X-Men 2 by 20th Century Fox, Elf by New Line Cinema and Bad Boys 2 by Columbia Pictures. Superhero movies are hot, and 20th Century Fox, which holds the copyright of the entire Mutant, is also secretly happy. The result is completely expected, and the final box office is $220 million. Elf is a family comedy movie, and it still focuses on the Christmas atmosphere and the market of the whole family, so it got a box office of $173 million during the Christmas season at the end of the year. Bad Boys 2 is starred by the emerging first-line actor Will Smith, and the market appeal is amazing. Even in the theme that is about to be played out in Hollywood, it still has gratifying results and earned $158.8 million, which further proves that Will Smith deserves such a high salary. In addition, Lemon's other work Fury also successfully entered the list with a North American box office of $154 million. Although it failed to squeeze into the top 10, the 11th place is not wronged, and it is still a vigorous dark horse. In this way, Paramount has had a pretty good life this year, with one of the top 10 being in the top 10. Considering the comparison between the shooting budgets of these two works and the results, both are very profitable, and Paramount executives can also release the annual report with a smile. In the end, only Universal is left a little unhappy. Among the 6 major Hollywood studios, the guys who were at the bottom suddenly climbed up. How embarrassed are they? Moreover, not to mention that they are not in the top 10 of the list. Even if it is expanded to the top 20, they still only have 3. The embarrassing thing is that the Hulk has made so much loss, but it is also on the list, ranking 15th. As for Bruce Almighty and Fast and Furious 2, they are ranked 13th and 16th respectively. Although both of them have some small profits, they have to save even some soup when watching others eat meat, and they can always live comfortably. Now, a large number of executives are facing the risk of being fired. Alas, every year at the end of the year, it is always so difficult. It's bitter. Chapter 267, Golden Globe Awards return. Recommendation votes exceeded 5,000. One more chapter added. After carefully browsing the 2003 North American year-end list, it is not difficult to find that the so-called sequel movies have dominated the production theme. There are 4 in the top 10 and 8 in the top 20. After removing animated films and superhero themes, there are only 9 works with independent themes. You should know that 5 years ago, the world was dominated by independent themes, but in a blink of an eye, sequels have become king, and the overall performance is very outstanding. It can be seen that the production of sequels is a basis for real box office guarantee. Thanks to the popularity accumulated by the previous work, as long as the quality is slightly better, it can often trigger a good viewing trend. The absolute screening advantage is determined before the shooting, and even the theaters are more willing to support sequels. This is also a reminder for all Hollywood film manufacturers, that is, how to smoothly sequelize and ensure quality and quantity. If you study it in depth, in terms of the subject matter of the work, in addition to the steady rise of the superhero market, low-cost comedies are still not outdated, and the influence of visual effects blockbusters is gradually increasing. In other words, in addition to the smooth storyline, movie fans enjoy the visual feast brought by special effects. The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, The Matrix 2 and 3, and even Terminator 3 and Pirates of the Caribbean are typical examples of this type. Those cool scenes that can never appear in the real world. With the continuous development of computer technology today, the lens images created give people a huge intuitive feeling. On the contrary, the crime movie that has never had the explosive power of the box office suddenly emerged as a masterpiece, which is also a highlight of this year. As for the group of technical maniacs of Pixar, we will not discuss it. It is right to achieve results. If it loses money one day, it will be a good news topic. If we continue to subdivide, the top 10 movies cover a variety of genres: magical epics, funny animations, black crimes, action, science fiction and family comedies. In addition to the sequels, the remaining types of movies are not single, and they all seem to have their own outstanding aspects. This also makes people have more expectations and some uncertainty about the box office trend next year. Of course, Lyman, who was still hiding on the set shooting the movie, didn't know about the outside world's enthusiasm. Even if he knew, he didn't want to pay attention. After all, movies are like this. No matter how much you predict the market trend, if it doesn't work, it won't work. Does the rise of the superhero market mean that it will definitely make money if you shoot it? In this way, the Hulk would not lose so much money, and Lyman would not be kicked out by Universal and turn to work with Focus Features. So no matter how much you think, it's all in vain. For Lyman, he just needs to make a good movie. As for how it will turn out, it's a matter of choice for the audience and the market. The shooting is continuing. Because the boxing scenes have been shot in a concentrated manner, the only thing left is the scenes after Maggie was injured in the second half. This is definitely a good thing for the crew, without frequent transitions and wasting time on setting up the scene. Everyone can also shoot more coherently, which is conducive to the actor's emotional transition. As the absolute protagonist in the second half, Hilary Swank is worthy of the acting skills of the Oscar-winning actress. From the performance point of view, she has truly integrated into the role. Although lying in bed every day and unable to move for a long time is a very torturous thing, she is very hardworking and the shooting progress is gradually accelerating. In a flash, time entered the first weekend of January. The climate in Los Angeles was still a little cold, and during the intense filming, some things were bound to disturb Lyman. On the afternoon of January 6th, his agent Johnson suddenly called. "Lyman, are you okay? What's up?" "No need to say polite words. This is what I mean," Johnson said on the other end of the phone. "The Golden Globe Awards are about to start. Your movie Bad Guys has been nominated for several awards. I guess you have a great chance of winning. You have to come and participate." The Golden Globe Awards are known as the vein of the Oscars. Although it is said so, its authority has never been high, and it is more of an entertainment value. As one of the most grand and influential awards in the United States, every year's convening almost covers the most popular stars and directors in the film and television fields. Why? Because nominations are free, just casually. Compared with the Oscars, it seems to prefer to follow the tastes of the mainstream public. That is, whoever has the highest box office will get the award. Then, everyone sat together and shared the fruit. Besides being happy, the ratings were also high. Why not do it? And Bad Guys was the third best film of the year, so it would naturally be favored by the jury. Of course, Lemon couldn't refuse. He still owed favors to several judges. They had promoted him in the selection of the Best Foreign Language Award. He couldn't even take some time to go there. It would not give the organizing committee face, and it didn't seem to be any good. Lemon asked helplessly, "What's the specific time?" "It's the day after tomorrow, and the venue is Chandler Music Hall in downtown Los Angeles. Remember not to be absent." "Okay, I know, I'll go. If it's a round trip, it will probably take a day or two. Now $1 Million Baby has filmed 4/5 of the scenes, and there is a little left. Forget it, just take it as a vacation, and let the crew relax for so many days." The so-called network circle and influence, it would be really inappropriate not to go. Thinking of this, he found Ryan, and told him about it. "No problem, I'll make arrangements. I'll take 2 days off, and start work when you come back," Ryan said with a smile. "Winning an award is good news, and it will also help to make our film company famous. How can you be more confident than me? Maybe I'll just be a runner-up." "Haha, there are so many nominations, you have to give one. People have come all the way to participate. It's embarrassing to let you go home empty-handed. Besides, the box office results are there. Apart from Lord of the Rings, who else can compete?" That being said, Finding Nemo is an animated film after all, and it can't get involved in the awards for live action films. From this point of view, it's really like what Ryan said, a battle between the Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King and bad guys. When thinking of Peter Jackson's fat appearance, Lemon chuckled again. This guy looks really impressive with his beer belly, but in practice, he is a complete failure. After the celebration banquet, he held a private party, but he couldn't even drink more than Lemon. He even boasted that he was a tumbler and never got drunk. But he couldn't even finish a bottle of whiskey and fell to the ground. Trash. It's not easy. Please support me. Chapter 268, Chapter 271, highlighting an atmosphere. Please subscribe and recommend. September 7th. When the crew was all on vacation, Lemon still had to work hard to attend the Golden Globe Awards ceremony. In the car, Lemon and Eva Green sat next to each other, and Morgan Freeman and Clint Eastwood were also traveling with them. All four were nominated for Golden Globe Awards, but not for the same movie. In other words, Clint Eastwood was nominated as the director of Mystic River, with Best Director and Best Picture, while Lemon was nominated for Best Director and Best Picture for his outstanding performance in Bad Guys. As for Morgan Freeman, he was both the guest of honor and nominated for Best Supporting Actor for his role as a police officer in Bad Guys, and Eva Green was also nominated for Best Newcomer. Ryan and Thomas didn't come with him, which disappointed Lemon. Moreover, Thomas, as a photographer, was also nominated for Best Cinematography, but he wanted to go out with Ryan and wanted him to accept the award on his behalf if he won. Although this is quite common at the Golden Globe Awards. For example, in the animation category, as long as Pixar is involved, they almost monopolize all the awards, and they often send 1 or 2 people to deal with it. But, I still despise it. We took a car to the city, and went back to our homes. Lemon and Eva returned to their mansion in Beverly Hills. When they were tired and rested, Saw was also announced to be withdrawn from the last overseas market. Although the Japanese film market is open to Hollywood movies, they have a heavy local protection policy. That is, it is allowed to be screened, but when to screen is decided by them. This also caused Saw to be withdrawn from the screen in other overseas markets for more than half a month, and it was only stopped here. However, it is worth mentioning that due to the quality of the film itself, or the fact that Japanese audiences are quite accepting of horror-type themes, in short, Saw won 762 million yen in Japan alone, equivalent to more than $6.9 million US. So far, the total box office has accumulated $346 million US, with a perfect ending. You have to know that even with the huge box office appeal of Tom Cruise and the very popular The Last Samurai in Japan, it only earned 1.072 billion yen in Japan. Let alone Lemon's Bad Guys, which was not the favorite of Japanese fans. It only earned 536 million yen. Firefly Pictures originally had more than 100 million funds on its books because it spent more than 27 million on the investment in the filming of Saw II and $1 Million Baby, and spent more than 3 million on internal operations and procurement, and rented a floor of a commercial building to expand the office department. Later, the money from Man Studio was remitted, and the company's books still had more than 460 million US dollars. However, now it seems that the overseas share of Saw will be remitted in a while, and by then, there will be more than 20 million in box office revenue. With this calculation, the company's current funds on the books are more than 480 million. Wow, I have made so much money without knowing it. It seems that the profit margin of making movies is indeed higher than that of stock speculation. No wonder Wall Street tycoons want to enter the Hollywood film and television production circle. Damn, as long as a movie is popular in the United States, Franklin will continue to flow in from all over. For example, in 2012, Disney acquired Lucasfilm for $4 billion US dollars just to obtain many movie copyrights under its umbrella, the most important of which is Star Wars. The profits of the three movies Star Wars 7, Star Wars 8 and Rogue One, a Star Wars story exceeded $1.5 billion US dollars, which means that without counting the other values of the company, the subsequent development of one movie alone earned back 40% of the acquisition price. Then let's talk about Star Wars 8 in detail, and the data is more intuitive. The North American box office of this movie is 620 million, the overseas box office is 710 million, and the global box office adds up to 1.3325 billion US dollars. Among them, the theater share is about 600 million, and the global home entertainment revenue, DVD, TV broadcast rights, etc., is 389 million. After deducting the production cost and publicity and distribution costs, it is 385 million. After deducting more than 90 million for copy transportation and loss, more than 30 million for interest and management expenses, the total expenditure is 578.3 million. The net profit of the film company is 417.5 million US dollars, with a return rate of 1.72, income/expenditure. In other words, Disney relies on this movie, not counting the licensing fees of toys and the like. This cannot be found. It is not a Disney company, which is equivalent to the results of Lemon's 2 years of hard work. Of course, this is also because Lemon is an investor and has not really participated in the distribution. The biggest piece of fat meat can't be eaten at all, and it is divided by Europa Films and Paramount Pictures. Think about it, he has accumulated nearly 1 billion in global box office with 4 movies, and the peripheral operations can also be about 600 million. In addition to the role licensing, the total harvest should be around 1.9 billion. Even if the labor cost, production cost, loss, and theater share are deducted, there should be 1 billion. However, he actually got less than 300 million of this money. The profits from investing in Saw and Transporter are not included in this part. In other words, after 2 years, the 480 million on the company's books are still supported by simple financial operations. With so much money in the bank, investments that are guaranteed to make money will definitely be made, and there are special banks that actively guarantee the profit turnover rate, but it is definitely much less than making movies, as well as Saw, which really takes the lion's share. If you really want to work purely, you may not be able to make as much as a series of movies, even if you work until you die. It seems that, if you want to really rise, you still have to establish your own distribution channels, and eat more meat. For example, DreamWorks has worked hard enough to produce a hit a year, and there are many small profit movies. Even the domestic distribution channels have been successfully improved by buying distribution companies, but it still cannot withstand the blockade of the 6 Hollywood giants, and was directly killed and split. Behind each of the 6 Hollywood giants is a media platform with deep foundation, and it is indeed not easy to break through the defense line. However, you still can't give up the determination to eat meat. Even if overseas channels cannot be established, North American distribution must be handled. By then, we can cut less meat and move up the industry without being exploited so much. Film distribution may sound complicated, but the most important thing is to get the film out there. Just like retail, we need to arrange for each store, cinema. This means that each state must have a relevant office responsible for communicating with local cinemas. The difficulty lies in recruiting and establishing offices and personnel. As long as this is solved, it will be easy to distribute movies across the United States. Chapter 269. Queuing up to share the fruit. Please subscribe and recommend. The next afternoon, when the Golden Globe Awards ceremony was officially held, as the most popular award in the awards season, countless reporters gathered in front of the Chandler Music Hall where it was held. The media had all kinds of cameras and guns, clicking non-stop. Because of the release of the annual list, everyone suddenly became interested in Lyman. For a while, when he walked the red carpet with Eva Green, many reporters aimed at him. "Director Lyman, look over here. Excuse me, what are your expectations for today's awards ceremony? When will the new work be released?" All kinds of questions were thrown at him by the media, making people overwhelmed. Just when Lyman was about to pick a few questions and answer them, a more eye-catching candidate took the bullet for him. The person who came was Tom Cruise. He had just arrived by car, and when he saw Lyman walking on the red carpet, he immediately followed. After entering the interview area, he decisively hugged Lyman. The two of them hadn't seen each other for a long time, but compared to this, the reporters finally pointed their spearheads at him, who made Tom Cruise more talked about. "Tom Cruise, do you have a good relationship with director Lyman?" Tom laughed and said, "Of course, he helped me a lot when we were filming Bad Guys, and I'm very grateful to him." Another reporter asked, "Is it because of your good performance that you chose to break up with Penelope Cruz? Are these two things necessarily related?" Perhaps in the eyes of the reporter, this is it. When Penelope Cruz, the rumored girlfriend some time ago, was mentioned, Tom Cruise's expression was a little unnatural, but he still said, "I have never officially announced my relationship with her, so how can it be said that we broke up?" The reporter asked again, "What about your relationship with Nicole Kidman?" Because of the pressure of public opinion some time ago, Tom Cruise hid for a long time, but he didn't expect that his scars would be exposed. After hearing this, his face turned completely cold. "She has started a new life now, and I only regard her as a friend. Our relationship has long ended. I hope that everyone will stop making those groundless reports. Also, I'm here to attend the Golden Globe Awards today, so please don't ask questions that are not related to the movie." Speaking of which, Tang has been criticized so much because of his ex-wife. Whenever there is a new movie, she would use him to promote it and complain about it, which made him collapse. This is also the reason why he dare not easily confirm his relationship now. These reporters still gave Tom Cruise face. After he said this, no one mentioned the gossip anymore. They quickly changed the subject and asked, "You are nominated for Best Actor for your excellent performance in Bad Guys. Do you have anything to say? What are your chances of winning?" This is the joint credit of the crew and Lyman. He is a very capable director. During the filming, he considered many performance issues for me. As for winning the award, it depends on the judge's choice. The movie is so successful. Are you willing to shoot this kind of subject in the future? Not necessarily. As long as it's a good script and suits my taste, I will take it. Lyman and Eva Green looked at each other, not knowing what to do. They were surrounded by reporters, but the reporters always asked questions to Tom Cruise alone, and Lyman and Eva were completely ignored. What is a superstar? This is it. When he is there, he can instantly attract everyone's attention. However, Lyman didn't want to pay attention to the reporters. Seeing this, he was too lazy to stand there, and walked out with Eva Green. Not far away, Kate Beckinsale saw this scene and quickly moved towards Lyman. She came with Michael Bay, the director of Bad Boys 2, and some crew members of the movie, of course, Will Smith. However, she did not act in this movie, but because Michael Bay hooked up with DreamWorks after filming Bad Boys 2 and was preparing to film a movie called The Island. She wanted to fight for the heroine in the movie, so she came to make friends. Director Lyman, we meet again. While shaking hands, she looked at Eva Green curiously. She usually paid attention to Lyman, and because of the embarrassment that night, her interest increased greatly, but she didn't expect that someone had already taken the lead. In this case, she took the initiative to greet Eva. "Miss Eva, is this your first time attending the Golden Globe Awards?" "Yes." Kate Beckinsale smiled and carefully observed Eva's expression and movements. "You know, since Lemon didn't want to hide their relationship, many tabloids have pointed out their affairs, but because Eva is a newcomer after all and not well known, not many people will pay special attention to such reports, but not her. It would be a lie to say that she didn't have any thoughts in her mind since that day. The action was arranged, and she just met a fool. However, she was very smart not to show such little thoughts. Instead, she showed a look of getting close to Eva in front of Lemon, but in fact she was observing the enemy closely." Just when Kate was chatting with Eva, Michael Bay came over with Will Smith. "Director Lemon, hello, I'm Will Smith. I like your movie very much, and hope to have the opportunity to work together." Perhaps because of racial talent, it was obviously a normal polite communication, but he smiled and gave Lemon a very sincere look. "There will be a chance." Although it was a bit perfunctory, Will Smith didn't expect to get any promises all at once, but just made friends first and talk about it in the future. At this time, Michael Bay also took the initiative to shake hands and said, "Bad Guys has received a lot of nominations this time. Congratulations, Mr. Lemon." "Thank you." Lemon didn't know Michael Bay very well, but his style left a deep impression on people. "Explosive Bay?" he joked. "Actually, I'm not interested in nominations. As long as the audience supports me, I make movies in the hope that I can make more box office money under the premise that the audience likes it." Michael Bay didn't expect Lemon to be so straightforward. His pure popcorn style is always ridiculed by film critics. They also say that when watching his movies, you can't use your brain at all, otherwise you will be stunned and your IQ will drop. Naturally, he subconsciously dislikes those directors who are rushing to win awards. But now, his words seem very sincere, saying that making movies is only for box office is quite to his taste. Moreover, this guy has won the Little Golden Man. With the global sales of Bad Guys ranking third in the year, he has an inexplicable domineering and is more convincing. Chapter 270, a unique one. Please subscribe and recommend. The 61st Golden Globe Awards. The best original score will go to The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. The winner of the 61st Golden Globe Awards for Best Screenplay is Bad Guys. The best actor in a musical or comedy is Lost in Translation. When the presenters announced the winners, Lemon was bored and wanted to doze off. If it weren't for the cameras broadcasting live on both sides, he really wanted to close his eyes and get through this period. To be honest, even if the Oscars are criticized by people with so many political trends and public relations rules, they are not comparable to the Golden Globe Awards. Not to mention that the awards for television and film are somewhat unreasonable. There can be 5 or 6 nominations alone, which is obviously to save everyone's face. In addition, the time for the award ceremony is too cumbersome, the host is a lot of nonsense, and the artificial suspense is boring. Everyone knows that The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King must be the only one that stands out, and it has to be so ups and downs. So, from the beginning, Lemon felt it was very boring. The award ceremony was still going on, and the best sound effects and best original music were once again won by The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. So far, this movie has won 3 awards, which is really a fierce momentum. The nominees for the 61st Golden Globe Award for Best Cinematography are Thomas from Bad Guys, Andre Otto from Lost in Translation, Riley Hunter from Mystic River, and The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. As soon as the nominations were announced, the entire award hall was friendly and talked about it, showing that everyone was paying attention and giving the organizing committee a face. The winner of this year's Golden Globe Award for Best Cinematography of a Drama Film is Thomas from Bad Guys. Thomas was fooling around with Ryan somewhere, and Lemon was too lazy to move, so he said to Eva Green beside him, "Eva, go up and help Thomas accept the award." "I'll go," Eva Green said in surprise. She came here purely to gain experience today, and she didn't even get the Best Newcomer award, so she didn't think about going to the podium. Lemon smiled and said, "Stupid, you are an actor. It is a good thing to show up in front of the media more often, and this is broadcast live across the United States, so the exposure is very high." Eva nodded and then happily went up to the podium. She said to the award presenter, "I will help Thomas to receive the award. Because the winners cannot be present due to some temporary matters, it is common to ask someone to receive the award on their behalf. But Thomas is a new photographer who has just emerged, and this is his first time to be nominated for the Golden Globe Awards. It would be strange if he did not come in person. Generally, those who do this are the big names in the photography industry who have won many awards. In this way, apart from other things, the directors in the award hall all remember Thomas' name." Eva Green took the trophy, bowed to the audience, and said politely, "Thank you for the judges' love for Bad Guys. I would like to thank the Golden Globe Awards committee and all the judges on behalf of Thomas. Thank you." The award hall was filled with warm applause again. Eva Green bowed again, after speaking before walking down. He said to Lemon with some joy, "I didn't say anything wrong just now." Lemon smiled and said, "Very good. Didn't you hear everyone applauding you?" In the end, the Best Picture and Best Director were awarded to The Lord of the Rings 3 together, without any surprise. Although, compared with the Oscars, the Golden Globe Awards is more like an industry carnival, adhering to the principle that everyone has a prize and everyone has fun. Whether nominated or winner, they will be very relaxed. Even so, such a result still surprised many people. For example, in the nomination stage, Cold Mountain, which won 8 nominations and was in great glory, was a big disappointment. In the end, only Zellweger won the Best Supporting Actress, avoiding the embarrassment of returning empty-handed. Bad Guys at least won 2 awards. However, compared with other competitors, people's eyes are still more focused on the winner. The final chapter of the Lord of the Rings trilogy won 5 awards out of 5 nominations, with a 100% winning rate, pushing the epic momentum of the epic to a new height, and carrying this mighty momentum towards the Oscars later. This is also the scene Harvey wants to see, attracting attention. At the end of the awards ceremony, when Lemon stood with directors such as Peter Jackson and Clint Eastwood and several judges of the Golden Globe Awards, to accept photos from reporters, Lemon felt like a primary school student who was given a certificate by his teacher. It was really embarrassing. After the ceremony, Lemon politely declined to hold a private banquet and left with Eva Green. On the side of the road, Johnson had already parked his car and was waiting at the exit. After getting in the car, Lemon asked curiously, "Who is the director of Young Osamu? Do you know? The one who won the Golden Globe for Best Foreign Language Film." Johnson thought for a moment and said, "You want to know this so much? That clip was well shot, and his directing ability is evident." Johnson shook his head and said, "The director seems to be called Siddiq Barmak, an Afghan." "What? Are you interested?" "Forget it." Originally, he thought that he was a talent who could win the Best Foreign Language Award, and Lemon was thinking about digging this person to his company, but he didn't expect that he was from Afghanistan. Lemon had just finished speaking when Kate Beckinsale caught up with him. She suggested, "It's so hard to meet again, let's go have a meal together." After a long time of tossing around, it was already late. At this time, everyone was very hungry. When Kate Beckinsale spoke, several people did not refuse. The restaurant was chosen by Kate Beckinsale, and the location was quite secret. No one paid attention to a group like them. Well, among this group of people, Kate Beckinsale didn't get much attention after the failure of Pearl Harbor. Bad Guys was a big hit, but no one cared about their performances in it. On the contrary, Lemon might be the most famous one. Maybe Kate Beckinsale knew the owner of this restaurant, and he personally arranged a private room for them. After sitting down, Kate seemed very active, and pulled everyone to clink glasses to cheer them up. Among the few people, Johnson didn't talk much, and Eva didn't drink much, and didn't talk much. Basically, it was Kate Beckinsale who kept the drinking party lively, and didn't let it get cold. She is actually a more lively woman, far from being a vase with a stern face on the screen. She is also very humorous and often talks about her experiences when filming. For example, when Michael Bay was shooting an explosion scene on the set, the third-party guarantee representative next to him was always terrified, fearing that something unexpected would happen, and he would face huge compensation. Therefore, before shooting, he checked the explosion line more carefully than their director. For example, Ben Affleck was like a child who had not grown up. He had a bad habit of being conceited. When shooting a kissing scene, he was specifically reminded not to fall in love with him because he had a girlfriend. You know, on that day, Ben Affleck sprayed some perfume in his mouth in a very showy way. The director and staff were watching. As an actor, I couldn't be stage frightened, so I took the initiative to kiss him. As a result, this guy didn't react for a while and even took a step back. Kate Beckinsale vividly described Ben Affleck's embarrassing story. It felt like he was the one who was taken advantage of. My god, it was torture to work with such an actor for the first time. Haha, Eva Green almost laughed silly. Kate Beckinsale added, so, don't believe the news in the newspapers easily. Most of it is fake. If you really want to know what a person is like, you still have to get in touch with him in private. Lemon also said, yeah, that makes sense. Johnson complained in his heart, if you don't rely on the media to create an image, do you really reveal your true face? Then why chase stars? Most stars haven't even been to school much. If there are a few who have good qualities and can restrain themselves from swearing, drinking, and messing around, they are role models. During the dinner, with Kate's self-exposure of the scandal, the atmosphere of the conversation was still good. In fact, Lemon also knew why Kate did this, and Johnson knew it clearly. But, this is society, this is communication, isn't it? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271, I'm a Bastard. Please subscribe and recommend. After dinner, Kate Beckinsale left. She knew her limits. Johnson drove the car towards Beverly Hills. When only Lyman and Eva Green were left in the backseat of the car, she suddenly asked, are you on good terms with Kate? Why do you ask that? Lyman was a little surprised. Nothing. Am I overthinking it? Eva's voice was a little calm. Am I overthinking it? She repeated. Why, are you jealous? Lyman turned around and looked at Eva with a smile. His hand had already held Eva's little hand without him knowing. It was cold. I don't know. I feel a little uncomfortable. She struggled a little, pulled her hand out with all her strength, and whispered, Lemon, am I too bad? After that, she took the initiative to lie on Lemon and kissed his cheek. I know you have considered our relationship, but I really don't feel safe. Her voice was a little choked. You are a big director, and there will always be temptations around you. I'm really afraid that one day, we will suddenly become strangers. I really dare not think about what will happen if it really happens. But, really, I always can't help thinking about these things. What she said was very messy. But Lemon felt very uncomfortable listening to it. Being hugged by her like this. She hugged him very hard. Or, I won't be an actor anymore. Hearing this, Lemon not only did not feel a trace of warmth, but felt that the muscles of his whole body tightened, and his heart beat rapidly. 4 months ago, it was Eva's birthday. Her mother called and said, you have to live well over there. Mom is old and useless. Many times, you need to find someone to support each other in the future. At that time, Lemon bought her a gift, but they didn't meet because they were busy. She didn't tell her mother that she already had someone she liked. She was afraid. 3 months ago, Lemon went shopping for clothes and shopping with her for the first time. She was very happy and went to the celebration party of Saw together. She knew that his attitude had changed and perhaps he could understand her troubles. From that day on, she was very much looking forward to it. 2 months ago, Lemon started a new play. She read the script and asked to act in it, but was rejected. Lemon looked at her with a smile. Don't you want to ask me why? She didn't ask. She didn't want to play that role that much. She just wanted to stay with him for a while, to spend time together. The lucky expectation was declared unfulfilled from the beginning. She didn't feel very bad, really. He was a person with opinions, but he also listened to opinions. These two characteristics are generally not used to describe a person at the same time, but they are just right for him. During those times, when they had intersected, Eva's deepest impression of him was his obsession with movies. No matter how tired he was, as long as it was for the movies, He would always be full of energy, but he was rarely interested in things other than movies. He was very ambitious, which was a good thing. Later, I met Kate today. Eva had said a few words to her when they were filming Bad Guys. She was a somewhat confident person, unlike her. In all aspects, she was better than herself. This was her own comparison. She could see something unusual. She was not stupid. Really, she just rarely expressed her opinions. She could also feel Lemon's love for her, but she was still very scared. Unknown fear. In the car, Lemon was silent. He always thought that he had a very good mentality, except when he just came here. He was worried and didn't know what to do. But now, he feels that he can easily face any problem, which is the toughness brought by strength and money, a sense of solidity. To be honest, he used to think about the life of 3 wives and 4 concubines. Is he a director? He has lived 2 lives and has never even experienced the feeling of being liked by others, so he was fooled by a certain fairy. It feels good to be cared for. From then on, I didn't have any thoughts. When a person really wants to own someone, he has only so much emotion. He began to be more motivated. Really, he wanted to make more money. But at this moment, he felt his head was heavy, messy, and uncomfortable. From the moment she opened her mouth until now, he could understand many things from the slight trembling of her body. Filming, being an actor, and becoming a big star. The girl had been striving for this goal in the first half of her life. For this reason, she came to Los Angeles, away from her parents' arms, to study acting courses in a strange country and a strange city. At those times, she never gave up and got through it. Now, Lemon hugged her gently. He could guess what she was thinking, and he was sure it was correct. But the more he did this, the more he felt a little breathless. Through the car window, pedestrians passed by him from time to time on the road. They had no interest in other people's stories. In this cold city, there are too many such troubles. They are all helpless and enduring. I don't know how long it took. The sky became more and more gloomy. The car stopped silently. They arrived home. The headlights were on at the door. Eva was somewhat in control. She got out of the car slowly and arrived at the door. Lemon took out the key and opened the door. The housekeeper was still awake. He heard the noise and was about to come over, but Lemon waved his hand. The house was lit and Lemon went to the bathroom. When he came out, Eva was sitting on the sofa and she was smiling very ugly. Lemon stood a few meters away from her, just looking at her. I drank a little and I was a little excited. Don't think too much. Until now, she was still trying to make up for it. She was a good girl. Let's go out for a walk, Lemon suggested. You just came back. Where are you going? Go downstairs for a walk. The two went downstairs. Someone was hired to take care of the front yard, which was quite pleasing to the eye. Along the cobblestone path, there were several street lamps on both sides of the road, shining brightly on the low flowers, and the lawn next to it was reflected in a dark green. Why do you want to stop being an actor? Eva walked beside Lemon, wanting to change the subject, but Lemon repeated the question. Seeing that he was serious, Eva blinked and whispered, "Isn't it that I'm a little scared? What are you afraid of? I feel like you don't like me being in the spotlight as an actor, and I feel that I'm not worthy of you. You are so outstanding. I'm afraid that there will be a sense of distance between us in the future. You know, we have too little time together. I'm afraid. I dare not say it." She pursed her lips and said, "Huh." Lemon took a deep breath to cover up some of the irritability in his body. Seeing that he still didn't speak, Eva lowered her head and suddenly smiled again. "It's good not to be an actor. Then I will have time, and I don't have to run around. I can always accompany you. Don't you always want it? Don't you trust me? You want me to accompany you. That's also good." "What did you just say?" She looked up suddenly. "You never understood me." Lemon looked at her and said word by word. Chapter 272. Using connections. Subscription recommendation. If what happened last night hadn't happened, Lemon wouldn't have thought so thoroughly. He was actually a bit chauvinistic, always thinking that he should be the one to work outside and make money, but he didn't think much about Eva's feelings. He also didn't think about whether Eva was willing to accept the idea of men working outside and women working inside. Obviously, she was afraid, so much so that she said not being an actor, accompanying him, which was very against her will. He admitted that he was a bit too self-centered. Crossing the living room, on the balcony of the bedroom, Lemon sat on a chair, and the phone in his hand kept ringing. Hello, Peter Jackson. Oh, I'm fine, nothing happened. I just wanted to ask if any of your friends have started a play. Yes, are you short of a role? Oh, it needs a man. Then sorry to bother you. Oh, it's a coincidence. It's okay. Well, then okay, let's drink together next time. Bye. Lemon hung up the phone, found another number, and dialed it. Hey, Kevin, how are you doing recently? Not yet. I estimate that it will take another 3 or 4 days to complete it. I'm not going to talk about my own business today. I want to ask if you have any good projects. Are you in need of actresses? Or if you have any news, just tell Johnson. Thank you. After so many phone calls, CAA is the only one that is reliable. At least there is some hope. Unlike the producers in the circle or the directors I met before, either the film has not started, or the actors have been finalized, and some have no actresses at all. What should I do? He threw his phone aside, pressed his temple, and a sense of relaxation slowly fell throughout his body. He couldn't help but sigh. It has been a week since we had a good communication that day. $1 Million Baby has also temporarily stopped filming because old man Clint Eastwood has something to do. Eva Green is busy running announcements every day, so she doesn't have such wild thoughts. But when she comes back occasionally, lying on the same bed, she can still feel her sense of uneasiness. She would often say that Johnson had taken her to an audition, but it didn't work out. To be honest, she still wanted to act very much. This might be due to some kind of pressure from her status, which made her particularly urgent. Besides, she didn't know how to do anything except filming. She couldn't manage the entire crew like Ryan, nor did she have superb photography skills like Thomas. If she was really allowed to immerse herself in the trivialities of life and accompany Lemon, he would feel it was cruel. However, Lemon couldn't start a new play recently. Even if he did, the weight of a play was just so-so. He couldn't always rely on a director's acting contract to support him. That would be extremely unhealthy for an actor's career. After thinking about it, he decided to help find one. By the way, he had some human value to others, but he didn't think so much before, and never thought about helping the girl to find a play. Now thinking about it, he really didn't know how to use resources. He is now a famous person with an Oscar for Best Foreign Language and the halo of being the third on the annual box office list. Indeed, in the eyes of many people, they are all good people who can be befriended, and you never know when they can be used. Therefore, some people in the circle, who have intersections with him, and even those film producers and investors who have worked with him, also know his character, and are not bad at doing things. They feel relieved when they give favors. Isn't this how the so-called big and small circles come from? You owe me a favor, I owe others a favor, and everyone has entanglements with each other. That is a common circle of interests. Peter Jackson, Tom Cruise, Nicolas Cage, Heath Ledger, Jack Gyllenhaal, Michael Bay. Anyway, those who have dealt with him and can still talk to him, contact them in a circle, and there may be an opportunity to squeeze the girl into the crew and make her more energetic. These people are all familiar with Lemon. Even if they don't have any conditions for a while, they can show their attitude and help to inquire. While Lemon was relieved, he was also a little depressed waiting for news. He closed his eyes and lay down for a while, and suddenly, the phone next to him made a sound. I pressed the button, and it was Kevin Hoween calling. I'm back. Eva shouted downstairs as soon as she entered the door. She kicked off her shoes, changed into more comfortable slippers, and rushed to the second floor. Why are you so reckless? Lemon said when he saw her coming. I'm happy. Someone asked me to shoot an advertisement today, and it went quite smoothly. Hey, what are you doing? Lemon moved her head a few inches away, but Eva still turned back stubbornly, and her bright red lipstick left a mark on his face. Haha. She smiled like she succeeded in a prank. Lemon couldn't do anything about her, and said helplessly, let's go downstairs to eat. Oh. Look at you. You eat vegetable salad at noon. You should eat more meat. It's good for your health. At the dinner table, the chef who was invited to cook Italian and French food was waiting next to him. Seeing that Eva was eating such light food again, Lemon couldn't help but remind her. "I've gained weight recently. I have to lose weight," she said firmly. "Come on, you're fat even though you're like that." Lemon wasn't really hungry, so he ate with her. He kept talking, but suddenly he smiled and said, "Oh, by the way, Kevin called me this morning and said that there was a role missing for a movie, and it seemed to be the female lead." "What movie?" She didn't even bother to eat when she talked about movies, and she interrupted him. "It's a disaster movie," Lemon continued. "It's about the Earth's climate changing drastically due to the greenhouse effect, and the world is about to fall into the second ice age. Tornadoes, tsunamis, and earthquakes are raging around the world, and people are displaced and fleeing everywhere. And this is a group play, but for actresses, only 2 roles are important. One has been decided, and it's a Japanese actor. The other one was originally chosen, but the director was not satisfied, so Kevin said, "Let you try it." "Really?" the girl said with a smile. She has been so idle recently, and she was very excited to finally get the chance to play a role. "You have to seize the opportunity." "Oh, I understand. You've worked hard. I love you so much." Eva rushed over again, hugged his neck, and left a mark. With Lemon's personality, he would take the initiative to help her find opportunities. Isn't it all for her? Tell me quickly, in that play, is there room for the role to be played?" It's a disaster movie. How would I know if there is room for play? But I think there should be." It's okay. I'm just asking." "Let's go in the afternoon. I have an appointment with someone." Yeah. She nodded. Chapter 273 The King of Disaster Movies. Please subscribe and recommend. Eva Green's acting career is actually quite bad. She has appeared in less than 15 movies and TV series combined. From her debut to 2018, she has appeared in less than 1 work a year on average. In terms of the qualifications of Hollywood actors, she is a middle-class person. She is the kind of person who can't get good resources. She only gets the leftovers. She has played a lot of female lead roles, but the roles themselves are not outstanding. She also encountered the epic masterpiece Kingdom of Heaven, which was a huge loss, which was even more unlucky. In recent years, with the popularity of the Lord of the Rings series, the film market feels that epic themes have great potential, and the 6 major Hollywood studios have successively thought about making money from them. What King Arthur, Alexander the Great, Troy, except for 300 Spartans, all of them failed. This also proves that not everyone can play this kind of work. After so many years, people often still remember her in The Dreamers. Apart from that, they can't pick out any other representative works. This is really embarrassing for an actor. It's not that those works she starred in are not completely unpopular, such as Casino Royale and the American TV series Penny Dreadful. When they were released, they also caused a wave of movie watching, but the problem is that the characters have no sense of existence, and the focus of the movie is not on a single character. The audience doesn't pay much attention to you and forgets it after watching it. What's the use? Audience popularity is too subtle. It depends on the feeling. If the feeling is right, you will subconsciously have infinite good feelings. If the feeling is wrong, you can forget it in minutes, and you may even feel disgusted. Just like Cage, this guy can have such a great influence in the mainland and once became the most well-known Hollywood movie star in the entire mainland audience. The reason is also difficult to explain. Moreover, this girl is a French actress. She had no connections to develop in Hollywood. She basically worked alone in the early stage. Even if she signed a contract with an agency, the internal resources of the agency could not be fully used to support a newcomer, and they had to be allocated layer by layer. So, she had to rely on herself. Therefore, for a long time, she was in a state of being better than the best but better than the worst. In terms of performance, she had the foundation of The Dreamers, but when it came to accepting a role, she was rejected in minutes. The best years of her youth were wasted like that. Not to mention being a vase. She didn't even have the opportunity to be a vase. She had to make herself an acting school, which was also a way out. It might be a bit euphemistic to describe it as bad luck. To put it bluntly, she had no one behind her. Hollywood is an absolute relationship society. For example, Leo could introduce his good friend Tobey Maguire to the casting crew of Spider-Man. She had no one to help her, so she had to eat the leftovers of others. Like 300 Spartans, those leading actors were very popular with the audience when they were released, but she was not so lucky. She took the second part. She didn't get the biggest benefit, but contributed her tough screen image. The pure little flower disappeared without a trace. Finally, after seeing Eva's performance, director Martin Campbell took the initiative to invite her to star in 007 and become a new generation of Bond girl. The image of fighting girl and manly can't be washed away completely. She is living her life slowly in an increasingly enchanting personal style, and with an agency that is increasingly ignored. Old people are replaced by new ones. Acting, as long as you can act, we are not picky. So, from a movie star to a TV actor, it is a half step back. But there is no way, there is no opportunity. If she can really act in a movie, she will not lower her own price. Therefore, we can't blame her for having a bad eye for selecting films, because she has no chance to choose at all. Even if she knows it's a bad movie, she has to do it no matter what. Just like so and so, he knows that he is a bad basketball player and will be criticized for being an ambassador. People know it in their hearts. But does he have the opportunity to choose? The company behind him is looking at the traffic after the endorsement, no matter whether it is good or bad, as long as it can make money. Just like the chess pieces on the chessboard. Let it go. How can it not go? Are you nervous? In the reception room of 20th Century Fox, looking at his girlfriend Eva's little hands that have nowhere to put, Lemon teased. Seeing that she pursed her lips and said nothing, he laughed even more and said, "No way, you have filmed so many movies, and you are still nervous about casting." I haven't taken other people's movies before. What if the director is not satisfied? She tilted her head, slightly worried. Hey, why are you afraid of this? For that role, you don't have to think about it. Just stand there during the audition. Just rely on your image, and it will be fine. The girl rolled her eyes and continued to think, not wanting to pay attention to him. Hello, Director Lemon. I'm Roland Emmerich, and I'm also the director of this work. Not long after, the real owner came. Speaking of this guy, he is also awesome. He studied sculpture in his early years. After graduation, he went to an advertising company to be responsible for planning. After working for 2 years, he felt that the work was not enough for him, so he went back to school to study film theory and production. His graduation work was selected as the opening film of the Berlin Film Festival. He is German, and the film festival means training, which attracted much attention in the industry. This person is particularly good at shooting special effects and stunt movies. In 1996, he made Independence Day and cooperated with Will Smith. It was a global hit and became the annual box office champion of that year. In 1998, he cooperated with Sony Columbia to launch Godzilla, which was a good box office again. In addition, the failure of The Patriot made him completely understand his strengths and no longer seek transformation. The Day After Tomorrow is a special effects blockbuster that was restarted after the failure of the movie. Hello, Director Roland. Lemon stood up and took the initiative to extend his hand to greet him. He shook hands and said nothing more. The two had no intersection, and even the types of films they made were different. One focused on the plot and the role, while the other focused on how to make a big scene to make the audience happy, and did not care about the story and the charm of the character itself that needed to be explored. To put it bluntly, this guy has a very smart mind. He knows what the audience likes to watch, so he shoots what to please them. Thomas stood up and exchanged a few words with him. Lemon patted Eva on the back and motioned her to go in for an audition. Then, Director Roland took her in. Speaking of which, because The Patriot was not very good, Roland Emmerich and the studio he opened were eager to make a big effort to restore their reputation in the circle. At present, this play must not be missed. From the script to the casting, he personally participated in every link. Moreover, he is more like a businessman than a director. He never pursues art awards. He makes movies just to make money. Therefore, when it comes to casting, low salary and strong ability are the best. Spend the least money and play the role. As long as the special effects are sufficient, that is the selling point. Other things don't matter. The movie has just been prepared, and most of the roles have not been decided. At this stage, CAA is trying to promote people. It is said that the actor has some private relationship with the new director Lyman in recent years. Just like this, Roland Emmerich decisively agreed to let him come and try. He doesn't care whether he is famous or not, or what French actor he is. He is eager to make friends with CAA and another rising star director in the circle. What's more, although Eva Green is not well known, she has a good foundation. The most important thing is that the salary is definitely not high. The funds saved are not more suitable than the previous actor who auditioned. P.S. The actress in the original film was not famous either. She was not as good looking or as good looking as Eva. About half an hour later, the door of the office was opened. Eva leaned out and waved. "Thomas, they asked you to come in." "Yeah." Thomas nodded and went in calmly. Eva sat next to Lyman with a smile on her face and was very excited. "Do you know what the audition result was?" "I passed." "Right." Lyman was also very calm. With the girl's conditions and someone helping her find connections, she couldn't even get a vase role. That was a bit psychedelic. "Yeah, you guessed it." The girl was a little depressed. Damn, the emotions were written on her face. "Still need to guess? This is an open book exam. You can't even find the answer." Chapter 274, cheap and easy to use. Subscription recommendation. In the office of 20th Century Fox, Roland Emmerich was sitting there with a few people. Two of them were executives from Fox's production department, another was from the company's legal department, and another was an executive from Lionsgate. As for why people from Lionsgate were able to get in, it was because the film was a collaboration between the two companies. In other words, Roland Emmerich's studio first signed a contract with Lionsgate and then asked 20th Century Fox to help with the distribution. At this time, Lionsgate was rich and powerful and was trying to open up a world in Hollywood. They also knew that it might not work just by relying on money, so they wanted to win over 20th Century Fox and use its distribution channels to have a guarantee first. As for the profit, of course, they would take the lion's share and they would do the smaller part and wait until the time was right and then slowly become independent. It was the same idea as Lyman. At this moment, after everyone had greeted each other, one of the executives got straight to the point. "We plan to shoot this film for about 3 months. Amy Rosen has more than 1/3 of the film's scenes, and she's the heroine in the film. If Eva Green wants to play the role, we also think she's a good fit after the audition, but the project has too much initial investment, and the various special effects shots cost a lot. The budget is a bit insufficient, so we may not be able to pay her too much." After slowly explaining their considerations, he took out a contract and spit out a number, $200,000, paid in one lump sum. According to the rules of the Hollywood actor industry, actresses of the same level are naturally paid less than male actors. Don't mention the role, it's just low. This is a Hollywood convention. After all, in this circle, almost all the people with real power are men. Like directors, producers, photographers and even stagehands, most of them are men, so naturally women's status is naturally low. Then, Eva Green, as a newcomer who has just debuted for 2 years, has not appeared in many works, but not too few either. Her salary has been stable at around $100,000, a supporting role, with few scenes, but she has a lot of scenes in The Day After Tomorrow, so $200,000 is a bit low. $1 million, paid into installments. Gentlemen, you may not know that Eva has appeared in Lyman's new film Little Love, and her salary at that time was $450,000, and her role was roughly the heroine, so $200,000 is really a bit too low. Several people present really didn't know that Eva was starring in Little Love. After all, it was still in the confidential stage. Although the post-production was completed, the schedule had not been selected, and the promotion had not yet begun. After knowing this, they were a little happy. Why? If the actors are popular, it is good for the movie. After a brief discussion, one of them said, $1 million is definitely not an option. It's beyond our budget. $500,000 at most. $700,000? Okay. After all, the conditions are there, and there is a new movie coming out. If you want to get on board, you have to give a little. After a debate, several executives of 20th Century Fox asked the legal department to draft a contract. Johnson called Diva in again. After both parties agreed, they signed their names and stamped the contract. 2 copies were made and kept by each party. In the car, Johnson steered steadily. Eva sat in the back seat, chattering to Lemon. She looked very happy. Before, she really thought that if Lemon agreed, she would say goodbye to the entertainment industry and stay there. She would never be able to act again. Now that the role was finalized, she felt relieved. She also knew that Lemon had no such plan and was very proactive. She was so happy. As for whether she would be paid or not, she didn't care. After all, at the beginning, she used to get 3 or 4,000. Now it has risen to 700,000. What is there to be dissatisfied about? Hey, do you know who I met when I auditioned just now? Who? Lemon echoed. Jake Gyllenhaal, the one who played opposite me. We haven't met since we finished filming Mackerel Love. I didn't expect to meet him in the audition room of The Day After Tomorrow. After reading the script, I found that the role he was going to audition for was quite similar to my role in the movie. I don't know if he was chosen. Yes, he will definitely be chosen. How do you know? Is it fate? Haha, Jake Gyllenhaal is a second generation in the circle. His own strength is there. Compared with male actors of the same level, his salary is also relatively low. Roland Emmerich, a director who is king of special effects, is very smart and knows how to use various resources. How could he not choose him? Of course, there is no need to analyze these with Eva. Look, she is still talking about the role. Lemon turned his head to look at her and felt that his whole body was glowing, which was a great change from the humble image of the past few days. She was willing to sacrifice, but he was not. It's good like this now, isn't it? Thinking about it carefully, he became happy. Lemon rubbed her hair and smiled. This opportunity is rare. You have to perform well. Even if I'm not by your side, you have to be confident and proud. I understand, but this role doesn't have many lines, and you have to wear a thick coat and a hat. Is this expressive? She pursed her lips and asked Lemon. Don't think too much. The success of a role is largely related to the lines and the image, but it is not absolute. If you can act out that kind of temperament, no one will criticize you. Think about it. Amy Rosen must be very scared when she sees New York surrounded by floods, the world falling into a small ice age, and natural disasters. But she is a strong person at heart, not delicate, so no matter how scared she is, she can't show it too much. Do you understand? There is a balance between fear and strength, right? Well, in terms of performance, you can add some small movements to show her fear, but in terms of expression, you can try to show that she is calm and not panicked. Contradictory psychology and expression. To be honest, Lemon really thinks that this role is very suitable for Eva. They are both people with that kind of female temperament in their bones. Besides, The Day After Tomorrow is a pure special effects disaster blockbuster with a simple plot, and it really doesn't require very profound and touching acting skills. What? There is a flood. What? The temperature drops sharply. All Americans need to flee Mexico for refuge, and a group of protagonists are trapped in New York because they failed to evacuate in time, and a group of people go to rescue them. In short, the plot is very bloody, and what you can see is the realistic reproduction of the doomsday scenes that are made with money. It is very exaggerated, shocking, and eye-catching. Young audiences will definitely like it. As for the acting skills of the actors, it is not so important. This is also the reason why The Day After Tomorrow, a first-line project with a production budget of up to $130 million, does not find a big-name star to bear the box office or publicity hype. Because there is no need, special effects are enough. Why do you need big-name actors? Isn't it outrageous to spend money on idle money? Therefore, the addition of Eva is definitely the icing on the cake. It is suitable in all aspects. It is not an exaggeration to say that she crushes the original actor. Chapter 275 Finale. Subscription recommendation. It cost $15,000 to build a hospital ward. If we rent a whole set of medical equipment at $900 a day, it has been delayed for 7 days and cost $6,300. There are 32 filming staff and 3 actors left in the crew, and the basic expenditure per person is more than $100 a day, and this is a holiday period. Well, when Lyman and Clint Eastwood both returned to the set, Ryan finally breathed a sigh of relief. Since he became a producer, he has become more and more sensitive to the crew's funds. Even if it has not reached the budget overrun, he has such a strong feeling in his heart. The crew has been shut down for a week, and he is almost crazy. Not to mention that the shooting plan has been disrupted, and the actors' schedules need to be reallocated. Even the eating, drinking, defecating, urinating, and sleeping of the whole crew are all a problem. But fortunately, the crew started working smoothly again. On February 3rd, the weather was just right. Everyone, get ready. We are about to start shooting. $1 Million Baby, Scene 65, Shot 2, Take 1, Action. This is a single-person ward specially built for the studio. 2 cameras were placed at a 45-degree angle to the left and right, aiming at the bed in front. Hilary Swank's face showed a slight smile of relief, and her expression was a little indifferent. With her weak body and pale face, 2 different complex states were naturally revealed. This is the psychology of a character that she has been thinking about during this period. The interpretation is very accurate. Clint Eastwood looked at her with some heartache, struggling in his heart. This is the last request of Maggie, to end her life. But Frankie could not make up his mind to kill his beloved disciple, even though he knew that euthanasia might be the greatest relief for her instead of lying in bed in pain for the rest of her life. Seeing his hesitation, Maggie bit off her tongue fiercely. Blood gushed out of her mouth in an instant, but she could no longer make a sound. Click. Prepare for the next set of shots. Lyman, who had been staring at the director's monitor, shouted immediately. At this time, Hilary Swank got up from the bed, took the mineral water handed to her by the staff, and washed out the blood plasma in her mouth. The previous segment was one of the most important tear-jerking points in the film. For this reason, she didn't know how many times she had rehearsed it in her mind privately. With Lyman's high requirements for this film, it was really rare that there was not a single NG. The next few sets of shots were much simpler. Frankie still couldn't get over the hurdle in his heart and ran to the church to confide in a priest. After returning, looking at the increasingly dull Maggie lying like a living dead, he finally made up his mind. 3 days later, the crew began shooting the last set of shots, which also meant that the film was about to be completed. Mokishalet means my beloved, my flesh and blood, Clint Eastwood said softly, and then took out a shot of adrenaline. The camera finally stopped on the sleeping Maggie. Click. Lyman's voice sounded. From the start to the end, it took nearly 2 months. It was even slower than the original filming speed, but considering the delays in the middle and the insistence on real shots in the boxing ring for better effects, the time spent was actually not much different. Lyman clapped his hands, attracting everyone's attention, and then said, "See you tonight at the Hilton Hotel." Oh. The crew cheered with relief. Lyman pointed to the messy shooting site and said to everyone, "But before that, everyone has to work hard to clean up here and also make a handover with the people from Warner Studios. I have already told them about the rental return in advance. Don't worry, we will take care of it." The stage manager smiled. Then, Lyman walked towards the art team again. The quality of art direction is directly related to the quality of a film. In every wonderful performance, in addition to the actors, the matching of lighting, photography, costumes, props, scenery and other aspects, as well as the overall style design, are mostly done by art. The art director must pay attention to the director's shooting intentions before filming, discuss with him in advance, and try to turn such an idea into reality as much as possible, based on the existing shooting conditions. This position can be said to run through every link of filming. Whether it is Fury or Bad Guys, it is the team led by York who undertakes this important task. After so many years of cooperation, they have already reached a tacit understanding. When the company was first established, there was nothing in the production department, except a few small fish and shrimps. Lyman also intended to dig up the entire shooting team. Watching everyone busy, Lemon found York, who was packing up the blueprints, and asked with a smile, "Did we have a good time working together on this shoot?" "It's easy to shoot with director Lemon," York said sincerely. "There's nothing that requires much thought." "Then are you interested in working for my company? I'll give you a higher salary than Europa Pictures." "This?" York hesitated for a moment. In terms of company size and assets, Europa Pictures is more than one level stronger than Firefly Pictures. However, York entered the industry at the age of 18 and has been in countless crews for more than 10 years. Apart from anything else, his horizons are broader than most people. The two have worked together so many times that they know very well that director Lemon has both ideas and the ability to turn them into reality. With the big market of Hollywood behind him, the company has great potential. On the other hand, Europa Pictures has a large number of people in the production department. There is more than one art team, and Luc Besson also has his own closer filming lineage, so his position in it is actually not high. Moreover, York was not completely unaware of the situation of Firefly Pictures. His company did not have a mature art director at all. If he went there, he would definitely be the one with the most experience and would have unlimited prospects in the future. People, especially those with real skills, would inevitably be dissatisfied with their current situation. He thought back and forth, thinking about the pros and cons. On the one hand, it was a newly opened company that was very short of people, and he would be valued in the past, and it might even expand his own art team. On the other hand, it was a well-established French film company with many projects, so he didn't have to worry about having no work to do. After hesitating, York still said, "Mr. Lemon, I agree to join." "Okay." Lemon laughed. "If you have time to fight, why not give it a try? If you miss the opportunity, Firefly will slowly recruit people, and it will be too late to regret it then." Giving timely assistance and adding icing on the cake, he chose to bet on the former. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.